Thank you for that, VP Ina.
Yes.
Today, we would like to adjourn the meeting in memory of Dr. Tatiana Melguizo. Was that Melguizio? Cesar Rodriguez, Tracy Bachman, and Arnold Blanchard. Dr. Tatiana Melguizo was an acclaimed economist and educator, scholar who served much of her career as a faculty member at the Rossier School of Education at USC, where she was a dedicated teacher and advisor. For 2 decades, Dr. Melguizo worked to better understand how community colleges could best support students, especially those historically marginalized in our education system. In her lifetime, she published 11 policy reports and dozens of journal articles and chapters that helped shape community college policy nationally. Her work made an impact and informed how community colleges approach math placement and assessment, developmental math instruction, language support, and transfer pathways. Dr. Melguizo's groundbreaking work on AB 705 helped inform state and district-wide policies on academic remediation strategy in California, particularly in mathematics. She received several Institute for Education Sciences and National Science Foundation grants to explore math education in community colleges and its impact on students' trajectories into STEM. She convened math educators nationally at the U.S. Puglia's Center for Higher Education to advocate for reforms that would address inequities in community college placement and transfer patterns. Dr. Melguizo often conducted her research in partnership with community colleges, beginning in the early 2000s with a project funded by the Jack Cook Kent Foundation to explore transfer from community colleges to elite private colleges. She co-established a long-lasting partnership with the LA Community College District, including 8 research practice partnerships. The most recent collaboration with LACCD was to evaluate COVID-19 recovery efforts and the ways technology is leveraged to engage students. Dr. Melguizo unexpectedly passed on January 10th, 2024, and is survived by her husband, Pierre Oliver Will, a UCLA professor of economics, their son Mateo, and daughters Amalia and Juliet. Next is Dr. Cesar Rodriguez, longtime visual communications instructor at LA Trade Tech College, passed away on December 20th, 2023, after a long battle with cancer. Mr. Rodriguez was an LA Trade Tech alumnus and a great friend and colleague in the design and media arts pathway. He loved teaching at Trade Tech and fought hard to continue working through the fall 2023 semester. Mr. Rodriguez will be missed by all who had the pleasure to know him and work with him. Please keep Mr. Rodriguez's family in your thoughts during this difficult time. Surrounded by immediate family and a cherished friend, Professor Tracy Bachman died peacefully on January 31st, 2024, following a multi-year battle with glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer. Early in her life, Tracy developed a deep love of music, which helped her form lifelong friendships over debating the greatest artists, albums, and songs of the day. In addition to her love of music, Tracy and her mother opened an antique store in the early 1990s on Ventura Boulevard called King's Cross. While watching antique shows, she could always accurately predict the value of items. Despite her talent with antiques, Tracy longed to finish her education. In her early 30s, Tracy became a freshman at LA Valley College. At the end of 2 years, she received the Valley College English Department Student of the Year Award and transferred to California State University, Northridge. Tracy completed her baccalaureate and master's degrees at CSUN, where she served as the editor of the Northridge Review, won the Fiction Prize, and was named Graduate Student of the Year for the entire university. Tracy started her teaching career at CSUN, and soon thereafter, she began teaching English at Valley College and humanities at LACCD College. Tracy served as a beloved colleague and exceptional teacher for over 20 years in the English department at Valley College. In addition to teaching English, she taught in the Workforce Development Program, helping county workers advance their educational and career goals. Serving as the Puente coordinator, Tracy coordinated enrichment experiences for students, including United Farm Workers co-founder Dolores Huerta's visit to LA Valley College. Professor Bachman's contributions to LA Valley College and the district were immeasurable. Her commitment to fostering a love for language and passion for literature were evident in every interaction she had with her students and colleagues. Tracy's dedication and warmth came through in her teaching, which touched the lives of countless students. The entire LACCD family shares in the sorrow of Tracy's loss and expresses its deepest condolences to her wife, Dean Deborah Harrington. Finally, we adjourn in the memory of Arnold Blanchard, Vice President of Administrative Services at LA Southwest College, who served as the Director of Internal Audit for over 16 years prior to being appointed Vice President. Mr. Blanchard passed away on February 5th, 2024. Although Mr. Blanchard was dealing with health issues for the past year, he never let it interfere with the work that he has always so diligently performed for LACCD. Fearless in the face of confrontation, Arnold cared little about what others thought. His only concern was that everyone gave their best and conquered whatever challenges lay ahead. Over the years, Arnold always encouraged those around him to strive for the best. There was no problem he couldn't solve and no challenge too daunting. Arnold didn't merely devote his life to his career. He extended his passion for knowledge as an instructor, guiding and shaping the minds of eager students with a desire to study business. A true entrepreneur at heart, he shared his expertise, assisting others with their businesses and offering invaluable frameworks for success. In addition, Arnold was committed to serving the community. Actively involved in the church, he selflessly gave his time to various services initiatives, extending his dedication to philanthropy, allocating both time and resources to charities. Arnold also enjoyed traveling back to his hometown in Sierra Leone, where he dedicated his time and services to support the community and reconnect with family and friends. Arnold embraced joy and laughter, seizing every opportunity to have fun. He had a diverse taste in music, enjoying a variety of genres. His voice could effortlessly shift from sounds of opera to uplifting gospel melodies, and then smoothly transition to soulful slow jams or upbeat hip hop tunes. His love for music was a testament to his vibrant spirit, which was evident during holiday gatherings where he was eager to karaoke a few tunes. Arnold also had a passion for exploring a wide array of foods and was always eager to support the culinary arts programs at the colleges. His appreciation for diverse flavors mirrored his approach to life, full of exploration, enjoyment, and a genuine love for his life experiences. Arnold was more than a colleague. He was a friend and mentor who left a lasting impression on everyone fortunate enough to know him. With a personality as big as his heart, he was a captivating presence in any room. His opinions were bold, and he never shied away from expressing them. But beneath that strong exterior lay a soft heart that cared deeply for others, including his community, colleagues, friends, and family. On behalf of the entire Los Angeles Community College District community, we extend our deepest condolences to the Melguizo, Rodriguez, Bachman, and Blanchard family. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you for that. Moving on to item B1. The First Amendment and the Brown Act guarantee a member of the public the right to criticize a public employee or public official in the performance of their duties. However, speakers are encouraged to focus their comments on issues relevant to the conduct of the public's business rather than on private or unrelated matters. Speakers are reminded that the Brown Act and First Amendment do not protect defamatory statements made which may subject a speaker to personal liability. Are there any members of the public signed up to address the board for regular agenda items?
Yes.
We have one person, Rolando, on Y1, Rolando Cuevas.
Yes. Mr. Cuevas?
Can you hear me loud and clear?
We do. If you could speak up a little more, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, 1 second. Let me adjust. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Loud and clear?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Okay, great. So I'm speaking to my item down below. I have lost faith in this district to do the right thing. My whistleblower complaint was a conflict of interest charge against trustee Andrea Hoffman for having an outstanding debt loan to the AFG for $63,700 on her Form 460 to the PAC that the AFG funded. So I'm asking the board if they could turn my matter over to the district attorney or the Department of Labor to deal with this issue correctly, because the legal counsel did a terrible job in communicating my conflict of interest to the attorney who investigated it and determined that, I don't know what the hell they determined, but either way, they missed the dark, because Andrea Hoffman, along with David Vela, have outstanding loans. And as Board of Trustees are obligated to tell the public whenever they're voting on anything related to the AFG's contract that they disclose that they owe this loan and recuse themselves from voting because they're conflicted because the loan is outstanding. So since our general counsel can't do the right thing, I'm asking the board to turn this over to the district attorney or the Department of Labor to determine whether the laws are being broken by both trustee David Vela and trustee Hoffman. Okay, this is a very important issue to have public transparency, especially in light of the Academic Senate resolution calling for an investigation to the scoring and all procurement issues. On the second issue I want to talk about is the Medina case versus Steve Veras and Chancellor Rodriguez. And I think it's very important that the public understands that Board President David Vela admonished Medina that if she did not disclose concerns about Rodriguez's illegal conduct related to contract to other trustees, that she would be fired. Vela told Medina that if he did not want to hear her complaining to him regarding Rodriguez, Veras informed Ms. Medina he had been spreading false rumors and disparaging rumors about Ms. Medina having a romantic relationship with trustee Gabriel Buenas, who is married. Shame on you, Veras. That is dirty. Veras admitted to Ms. Medina he had told other trustees about the untruthful romantic relationship. He counted on his fingers when he said, I've discussed this with Henderson, Lino, Hernandez, and Hoffman, the four women of the board. Shame on you for being silent on that issue. During the same meeting, Veras directed Medina to file a sexual harassment complaint against trustee Gabriel Buenas. Ms. Medina refused and informed Veras a sexual harassment complaint against Buenas will constitute fraud since it was not truthful. Shame on you, Steve Veras. During the same meeting, Ms. Medina informed Veras Rodriguez did not like Medina, was
So your
not
time's up. Thank you.
who served him and liked it.
Your time
Shame
is
on
up.
you guys. Shame, shame, shame. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Happy Valentine's. Love you all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Sandra Lee wishing to speak on item G1.
Is it okay to use this? Is it on now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, trustees. I don't see many of our LASC faculty here in the room, but that's probably because we didn't know until very, very recently that this meeting was held on the campus. So that's why you don't see many of us here. I want to, first of all, my name is Sandra Lee. I'm a professor of psychology and also the AFT 1521 LASC chapter president. I want to speak in support of the Academic Senate resolution. We've read your report and response back to us, Chancellor, and Trustee Henderson, you signed that as well. I want to say that those are really wonderful words. We have policies and procedures in place already. What we need is action, not more words, not more revision of existing policies and procedures. Accountability is what's needed right now. Again, we already have policies, procedures, and processes in place. What we need is enforcement. That's the zeitgeist right now. Enforcement, action, not words. Secondly, I want to bring up these ongoing payroll issues around this district. I've been talking about these until I am just blue in the face. We have to pay people what they're owed for the work that they do in a timely manner. Everyone relies on their paychecks. And these excuses of staffing problems, we hear it month after month, week after week. Enough is enough. Pay people for the work that they do. You get paid, we should also get paid. And not when the district decides to staff up or to work it out, but when it's due. We're still determining how to implement some of the contract agreements that we have ratified in October. There's a huge list. I was at our last executive board meeting for our guild. There's a list of items that are payroll related that faculty have not been able to get implemented in our contract. We need to make this not a priority in a hierarchy, but all of these issues need to be made a priority and worked out immediately. Adjunct faculty are significantly impacted when payroll issues abound. And I'm going to borrow from the last speaker, we should be ashamed of ourselves for allowing our adjunct faculty members to have delays in their paychecks and in this contract implementation. And thirdly, and finally, we were approved for a 2% raise in our last contract. But what we're finding is that this obviously is coming from the college
Ma'am,
budget.
your right time's up.
All
Thank
right.
you.
This is obviously coming from our college budgets, but we don't want this raise to be weaponized to cut classes, and we don't want this raise to be weaponized against faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone else that is requested?
No one else.
Thank you so much. Now on to item C1. The Los Angeles Community College District recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work and to teach and educate on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, and in no particular order, the Ferdinand Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and the San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. Before we proceed, Chancellor, are there any changes to the agenda and order of business?
Yes, Madam President. Good afternoon, members of the board. Yes, there are. I'd like to note that we were going to pull 5 items this afternoon. Please note that item K2 from the Budget and Finance Consent Calendar, K2 will be pulled. And then from the Professional Services Agreement area, business items U11 through U14 for a total of 5 items, K2, U11, U12, U13, and U14. Please remove those 5 items. We will return those items for consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you, Chancellor. Now, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda and order of business with the requested amendments?
So moved.
Moved by VP Eno, second.
I second.
Who's that? Student trustee. Thank you. And second by student trustee Cordova. My apologies. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote,
Yes.
trustee Boulna,
Yes.
trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez, absent, trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
trustee Eno,
Yes.
trustee Vella,
Yes.
trustee Vettis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now, may I have a motion and a second to approve the regular board meeting and closed session minutes from January 10, 2024?
So moved.
Moved by
second.
VP Eno,
I'll second.
second by trustee Hoffman. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote,
Yes.
trustee Boulna,
Yes.
trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez, absent, trustee Hoffman,
Yes.
trustee Eno,
Yes.
trustee Vella,
Yes.
trustee Vettis.
Thank you. For item D1, do any members of the resource table wish to be recognized at this time to make comments before the board?
Good afternoon and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. First of all, my name is Angela Echeverry and I'm the president of the District Academic Senate. And I'm here with my colleague, Jeff Hernandez, the first president of the DAS. First of all, I'm pleased to announce our upcoming District Discipline Day on Friday, March 15th at West Los Angeles College. This is going to be our first in-person discipline day since the beginning of the pandemic. And we're very excited about this opportunity for faculty to discuss matters of concern to us, including legislation such as AB 1928, transfer reform, Common Course numbering, in-language instruction, and many other matters that are relevant to our faculty. We will also highlight efforts by our faculty to develop baccalaureate programs in our district. So we're very excited about that, to recognize these efforts and also to infuse sustainability across the curriculum. So we will be having an open house with the Climate Center at West LA College. We hope to have a lot of interaction with faculty. And so we're very excited about this event. And I want to thank the chancellor for supporting us with the lunch and breakfast for the event. The DAS met last week at City College and approved a resolution to support SB 895 to basically, express our support for a pilot program in nursing, baccalaureate degrees. And so we're very excited to working with everyone to that effect. We also approved two resolutions requesting audit by the California State Auditor into the district's handling of sexual harassment, as well as procurement and competitive bidding processes. And I have addressed a letter to the board and with those resolutions. So we look forward to continued collaboration and cooperation with the board to make our district a safe learning environment. I just want to mention that we have about 20,000 concurrent enrollment students enrolled in our district right now. And it's extremely important that they and all other students and faculty and employees work and learn in a safe learning environment. So it's very important for us to make sure that we get this right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Hicks. I'm the SEIU 721 president. And I came here today to use this platform to reach out to our membership. We just ended our negotiations with the district. It was a very good negotiations. We're very proud of the negotiations, what we made. Our rallying cry was equitable returns. When I first came in as the president, I looked at a lot of the contracts that were out there in our district and in other locations. And I said, we gotta incrementally change some of these things. So in each contract cycle, we've been able to do that. So we had a couple of town halls where we put all the negotiated TAs out to our members, and everybody was really ecstatic about that. So we're in our 4th day of ratification voting. It ends today at 5. So if our SEIU members are watching, make sure you vote your conscience on that contract that's out there. We'll be back in front. I have all the confidence in the world that we're gonna reach our ratification, and we're gonna be right back in front of the board at the next cycle. So thank you for that. And I want to also, after going through a few negotiations this last cycle with the LACCD membership, I was very appreciative of the pragmatic approach that they took as we were negotiating the contract. And we just arrived at some equitable returns, and I'm really appreciative of that. So, and it's a good contract. Like I said, the members who haven't voted, ratification is over today at 5. Make sure you get your vote. And when we bring it to the board, we're hopeful that you guys will approve it. It's a good contract. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I want to recognize this campus's loss of VP Arnold Blanchard, and our thoughts are with you all. Second, I do want to recognize it's Valentine's Day, and here we all are instead of with our loved ones. So hopefully your family relationships like the relationship with my wife, and we do not believe in the capitalist holiday of Valentine's Day. Otherwise, you all got some making up to do. Last, I also want to recognize it's Black History Month. And I love to talk to my students during Black History Month about the concept of education and how we got here into this space today. And one of the things we have to remember is that all of us had to fight to get into this space. Some of us had to fight more than others. Education in this country wasn't guaranteed to even white people and white men initially. It had to be white men who were owners of property initially. And then later, it became all white men. And then women got involved. And it wasn't until 1954, I believe, with Mendez versus Westminster right here in California, where you had your first desegregated school. And the attorney for Mendez versus Westminster was Thurgood Marshall, right? The same attorney that was the attorney for Brown versus Board of Education. Long ago, African Americans saw their connections to Latino communities, and they knew that we had to work together in order to get a righteous outcome. As well as it was Asian Americans who got the first bilingual, courses in the state in San Francisco as well. So I want to just remember that as well. I want to commend the district on some of the advances you've made in the sexual harassment policies. We have a long way to go, as you know. And we have to continue to work to be better each and every time. This is an issue that's been not just plaguing us, but plaguing the country for a long period of time. And I am looking forward to seeing further advances to actually make us be the stellar example of what sexual harassment policy should look like, not just in the state, but in the country. So we'll be here watching. But today I want to talk about how we're going to move forward on other issues, because we are right now at the beginning of a very bad budget coming out of the state of California, and every announcement, it sounds like it's going to be a little bit worse. We're also coming towards the end of Hold Harmless, all right? And what we need to do is have that rededication to each and every student to come out of this correctly. I do want to say this. The campus presidents, you have done a really good job of taking care of your enrollments. And I do commend you working with our faculty, working with the staff to make this happen, because it takes team efforts to make this happen. We don't do it by ourselves. You don't do it by yourselves as well. And when you look at our enrollments are up across the district. Some of our enrollments are better than that 2017 number, which was the height of our enrollments. And some of our enrollments are approaching that, and most of our enrollments are 90% of that. So that's a lot of hard work on everybody's part in this room, and we should all be recognized for it. But to move this forward even further, we'll be presenting you with a 10-point plan that was drafted by Southwest's own Christine Wright and was approved by our board, our executive board. And this 10-point plan is really student-centered and student-focused. Some of these things you've thought about, some of these things you may be doing, but we want to get a laser focus on how do we support our students further? Because if we are going to come out of hold harmless fine, if we are going to have continued growth, we are going to have to focus on the success of each and every student. No student is expendable. No student should we let go by the wayside. And we have to remember that. We have to track the outcomes of our AB 1705 students, particularly those who have taken the course 3 times and may have left the district. We should be contacting those students and find out how can we get them back and get them through those math courses and English courses. We also need to look at district level, it's not just district level projections, but campus level projected revenues. This will help each and individual campus figure out what their future revenues may look like so that they can see where they're going to come out in the black or which campuses might come out a bit in the red. I remember when I was a chair of the sociology and philosophy department talking with other chairs, and our average number in sociology was 43 students. And I remember someone who had an average number of 12 students, they were talking about cutting their courses. And some people were like, why is it that we have to carry 43 students and they can only carry 12? I looked at it differently. We carry 43 so they can carry 12. That's what we were doing. We wanted to make sure that those disciplines were protected as well. We wanted to make sure those courses were protected for our students as well. And yes, some of those courses did not have robust enrollments, but that did not mean that they weren't necessary for our students. And same with our campuses. We have to make sure that each and every single campus is protected. Also, we have the March in March coming up on March 7th. And I want to thank the chancellor and the district, okay, for supporting the March in March by paying for our students to go up there. We really do appreciate that. We will be having 180 students and faculty headed up to Sacramento on March 7th to March for Education. We need to work together on this as well, because there is something we all have in common. We all want a good, healthy budget for our campuses, for our students, and for our districts. Every single one of us wants that. We should be going up there together and demanding that. That is extremely important. Our campuses are way too important for us not to work together to protect them. They're too important to our students. Another thing, the point 2 was mentioned as well for the campuses. That does need to be looked at. This should not be something where there's a raise to our faculty and our clerical staff and our administrators, and then the campus has to absorb all that raise. This puts undue pressure and burden on those campuses. There should be a shared burden by the district itself, because as that burden is put onto the campuses, this means these campuses have to become more creative with their fundraising for how are they going to find revenues, okay? They have to also think about cuts. The district should be thinking about this too, because if we're all thinking about this, we may find that there are untapped revenues that we are not looking into. Some of the things I really want to suggest is grant writers for every single campus and for every single for the district itself. We should really be trying to get as much grant money as we can. Another thing is our foundations. When I became president of the union, I got invited over to ELAC's foundation dinner, and it was amazing. It was wonderful. West Foundation dinner, City's foundation dinner, amazing, wonderful. But I was at Pierce, we didn't have foundation dinners. And I found out that ELAC, West, and City all have full-time foundation people, but Pierce we don't. We have faculty who are trying to do this for free, actually, through volunteering. We need to fully fund those foundations. This is one of the ways that my wife's college, Santa Monica, pays for so many of the things that they have for students and faculty. My wife gets to travel all over the place. I'm jealous. And she tells me, oh, this is foundation money. This is foundation money. Wouldn't it be nice that we have money falling out of our pockets that we could use to support the education of our students and the training of our faculty and staff? Let's all keep our eyes on the prize. The thing that's important to everyone in this room, and it should be important to everyone in this room, is our students and our campuses. And that's what's at stake. And when we had so many people before us who fought, literally were willing to risk their lives and their children's lives for the right for an education for Black and brown students, for Asian students, we need to protect that right. And we need to make sure it remains accessible to all those students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is such an unflattering camera. I'll be making sure not to eat that Valentine's candy. But good afternoon, Board President Henderson, VP, First VP Eno, to all of our distinguished trustees, Chancellor Rodriguez, and every guest in this room and online. Happy Black History Month and happy Valentine's Day. I do stand with Dr. McKeever in stating that a part of the understanding of Black history is to understand that we're still working for those equitable spaces. My thesis was in educational disparities for Black and brown students. And as I look at the beautiful complexity of community college, I see that we are absorbing a lot of those academic achievement gaps that do impact our communities, which we all serve in. So I do understand, and we stand with the understanding that in this community college space, not only are we supporting our faculty and our staff, we are all considered educators. And I think that's the key caveat I like to stand on, is that classified is also educators. I think, again, we educate on those resources. I actually oversaw fourth attempt petitions. As we removed those remedial courses, which had some great positive benefits, we are actually seeing an uprise in that. So if we're looking at our student population, it's not just the recruitment, it's the retainability of those students on the unique basis and premise. So once we understand that classified is also educated in what our students can do, you'll see that we're at the front line of when those students come into the campus. You want smiling faces to engage those students. You want real conversations. And that is done when we feel supported as well, because we are here to serve our students. That is the mission of what we are all here to do. I'd like to thank the district for active and happy negotiation and, making sure they are available to us. And we are hoping to wrap up and join our sister unions and, having our members online finally come to a conclusion on that. So we're excited and thank you for the district as we sit in these negotiations, making yourself available to us. We are doing a lot of analysis as classified. We are going to bring some things up in the processes of hiring classified. And I thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez and the board for making sure that we have never stopped that process. But when it comes down to the applicability of the process in getting into our district and some of those conundrums that we're facing in that, we like to kind of bring that to your attention as we get a little further along in our analysis and research studies. But to our classified members that are watching online, we're almost done. Hopefully we get to the same as SEIU 721 and our other sister unions in wrapping that up. But again, we support, and I thank you guys for your support of classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board President Henderson, Board Vice President Eno, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Rodriguez. I am Blanca Barajas, President of the Classified Management Association and the CalWorks Director at Los Angeles Southwest College. Yeah. I proudly welcome you to our beautiful college, home of the mighty Cougars. Our college is a gem in the community that has been the catalyst to transforming countless lives and families in our community. While to most, LASC is the smallest college in the LACCD, located on the corner of Western and Imperial Highway, to others, like me, this college symbolizes courage, history, grit, and heart. As the LACCD's historically Black college, it is fitting that we welcome you during the month we pay homage and celebrate Black history, where we honor the amazing Black Americans that have made countless contributions to our nation and the world. I would also like to take this time to honor my CMA colleagues who continue to do their jobs with passion and focused amidst this waiting period when most are waiting to be transitioned to their new representative group, either AFT Staff Guild or SEIU 721. Although we appreciate the district's shared goal with the CMA that no employee is harmed by this transition, and we are also aware of pending final negotiations impacting moving forward with the transitions, we also want you to please be mindful that with each passing day that the transfers aren't solidified, my colleagues continue to do their work without having the representation the district deemed they have rightfully deserved for many, many years. With that said, the CMA hopes to also have a response to the letter we submitted to all of you on December the 8th, 2023, regarding the additional asks for our unrepresented colleagues transitioning to AFT Staff Guilds and SEIU 721, as well as those remaining unrepresented. We would also like to remind you of additional pending and unresolved issues regarding Ms. Catrilia Walker, Health and Wellness Specialist, and the loss of pay she's incurred due to her abrupt transfer to AFT Staff Guild, and Mr. Kui Dang, Database System Specialist in the Information Technology Department in the ESC, who lost partial overtime pay due to a coding error and whose case I brought before the board on the January 2023 board meeting. As I mentioned, both of these cases continue to remain unresolved. I will follow up with you regarding these cases offline and hopefully arrive at some resolve. Please remember, these aren't just issues raised on behalf of our two colleagues, but these are situations that have an adverse impact to two dedicated employees who deserve the district do right by them. Thank you for your time. And once again, welcome to the home of the Cougars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees, Chancellor. My name is Christina Ozan, representing SEIU Local 99. Welcome to Los Angeles College, my home campus. I would like to first extend my sincere sympathy and condolences to the family of VP Arnold Blanchard. I never really had the chance to really get to know him because we only met once and it was brief. But one thing that stood out and made an impression on me was that he showed that he was a true Dodger fan because he was dressed up in an all blue Dodger blue color suit with a Dodger cap on. And I thought to myself, boy, he is really representing his team. I was sorry to hear about his recent passing, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to work with him. I've heard a lot of positive things about him. We also stand in solidarity with the Academic Senate faculty resolution for better policies and procedures and accountability that would address sexual harassment, including non-sexual harassment conduct in the workplace. And I would like to also say that we're going to be going into negotiations soon. So we hope, that, for a fair contract. And lastly, I would like to give a shout out to all my fellow colleagues in management and maintenance of operations, administration, faculty, staff, and our campus sheriff department at Southwest College for their hard work and dedication to serving our students. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Black History Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to say hi to the board and thank you very much. It's nice to be back kind of in person here. I wanted to take an opportunity for a couple of things. One, sadly, I do have we'll be adding to your list of remembrances, a faculty member of my department who was the longest serving adjunct that there was two a few years ago, but as as time goes on, he had become the first. He'd been teaching in my department since the 1970s. And he passed over the weekend. So as soon as I get more information, we'll make that announcement. His name was Robert Ramirez in my electrical construction. So I just kind of wanted to add that. Not a happy note. And now just for a couple of you, I'm sorry. I mean, you can dust your back off in a little bit after I throw you under the bus, but I've kind of reached a quandary on where we need to go. And I'm reporting out primarily as the executive vice president of the guild and the chief negotiator. Little teaser for the JLNBC thing. I will be demonstrating the pinhole gun surgery. So just so that one doesn't go really long. We're trying to implement things, and Sandra mentioned earlier, I believe one of the public speakers, Dr. Lee from this school, and we do have some problems, and I'll be Chancellor, I put most of this on your shoulders from the first golden handshake and SRP, the retirement, the first time around, and then the second time around. And for whatever reason, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. And thanks to our great benefits, everybody, I now have 20/20. I have my cataracts fixed, and so we're good there. But we just didn't have the staff at the district to implement things. I am literally at this time still trying to implement an agreement that we made in the past contract. So we're 3 years past and have never been able to implement it. It's not a widely felt problem, and I think that sometimes we lose track of them. But it is deeply felt by the maybe 15 people that it impacts, and we just cannot seem to get it done. Now, I will grant a little bit. There has been improvement in the last month. And I'm hoping that we finish that, but literally 3 years is too long to do this implementation. And it's put me in a less of an agreeable mood when we are moving to implement current things like Dr. Lee was talking about. We do have some issues with pay. And I think the number one thing that any employer should do is make sure we pay people properly. We did get a big chunk of it done with the 10.22 pay raise. We got it out honestly earlier than we have in decades. And usually it took until the following year before we ever got it out. We had some new problems that pop up. We negotiated last time a way of taking your 10-month pay C basis and spread it out over 12 months. An unforeseen circumstance was when they applied the pay raise, the system kind of went, uh-oh, I don't know what to do with this. And so that created an issue. But we have other minor ones. We cannot seem to get the stipend for our bilingual folks. We can't seem to get the stipend programmed for the dual classroom folks. And it may be 10 people or 300 people. It shouldn't matter. And so those are the kinds of things. And I mean, the staff is working. We do have a list. My conundrum is what do I need to do? There are labor laws that say you should be paying it. I absolutely recognize the fact that if we go down that path, by the time we get to the end of that path, we probably will have this all solved. So I kind of want a commitment from everyone that we are going to solve these and not just keep putting them off. I don't want to hear our computer won't do it. We spend lots of money on these systems. It's time that we tell the systems to do it. IT is a problem. We're there. I don't know what your staffing looks like in IT. I can just tell you, I'm aware of a certain individual who used to be very, very good, who retired. Was there no succession planning? Did we not know what was going to happen? Because right now we're stuck because of data that needs to be sent to who we pay money to do this for us. And we can't get them that data. And it's very frustrating. So I'm trying not to just, I'm tempted to file the grievance and just to get it started that way and then hope that we solve it. But I also recognize the fact it doesn't really help. If I can honestly feel that we're going to commit to doing it, I think we can get it done. But I wanted you to know the frustration that's popping up in me to begin with, and it's related to not being able to do last year's, and we're still working on it, and still having issues with what we're doing now. And And like I said, we are getting much better at it. And I will say that there finally is more staff that is helping, but it's just kind of hard to believe sometimes. It's like, so I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then, like I says, the gum recession surgery. And I do get a second shot at you at the JLMBC report.
We're looking forward to it. Anyone else? Okay, so we've received the Chancellor's monthly report, which includes activities at the colleges from the college presidents. Do any of the presidents wish to further comment or highlight anything not written in the Chancellor's report?
Jim wanted to claim our winning Cougars, I understand. Thank you, Chancellor Rodriguez, Trustee Henderson. To some of you who have not been here in some time, welcome to the Cougar Den. To Trustee Henderson, welcome home. We certainly are honored to host the trustees board meeting today. I want to talk a little bit about Southwest College. I was told that I had 2 minutes, and then I was told I had 5, and then I had 7. So I'll just take as much as I feel right now, and then end at some point.
You're our host.
Thank you. Martin Luther King said something that reminds me every day of why we do what we do. He says, every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. Southwest College came into fruition because of these ideas: struggle, sacrifice, suffering. Odessa Cox and the other community members thought it necessary for there to be an institution of higher education in Southwest Los Angeles. And through that struggle, through that suffering, through that sacrifice, through their exertion, through their passion, through their dedication, we now stand here over 50 years later, still a beacon and a hope for this community. We are anchored on the east side of this campus by our Child Development Center that allows for our matriarchs, patriarchs, those single parent homes to drop off their children in a safe, high quality education environment. I want to thank our deputies that are led by Deputy Ruzan for keeping Southwest College safe. They allow for our students to come and to place their students in our capable hands. The Child Development Center, led by Director McKnight, continues to be one of the jewels of our campus. We're anchored on the south side of the campus by our Higher LAX program. That Higher LAX program continues to be an admired jewel by all who come into awareness of what it has accomplished since it started and has been such a great partnership with Southwest College. I say this all the time, and I say it because the collective work of the faculty here, the administrators here, classified staff, and certainly the committed students here have made everything we do possible. And what they've done is they've taken advantage of a resource that we call Higher LAX, and they have turned that resource into a life-changing experience. Over 350 students since its inception and its relationship with Southwest College has graduated from the Higher LAX program. And it is our understanding that that in their graduating from that program, the resources that have been contributed to them through their salaries, through their benefits, equate to over $15 million. That's life-changing. That's being a resource to eradicate poverty out of the community, which is one of the mission statements, ideas of ours at Los Angeles Southwest College. Those who have struggled, those who have committed themselves to Southwest College being what it is, have given themselves to a legacy that others planted the seed of this wonderful tree that they may never have sat under, but now we sit under it, not just to enjoy the blooms and the blossoms of the tree, but to take one of those seeds and to plant another one, so that when we are long gone and from this place, that someone else can sit under the tree of the seed that we planted. That is what it means to be committed, dedicated, passionate. We want to see the education of this community continue on long beyond us, long beyond the student population that we currently serve. And let me just make a special note here. We're anchored on the west side of this campus by the Cougar Stadium. That many of you were aware that prior to this past academic year, our athletics program certainly was in an opportunity, presented us an opportunity to rebuild, to re-strategize on what we would do with that community. I want to thank my colleague, Jim Limbaugh, and his collaboration in helping Southwest College rebuild that team, because that team committed itself to over 75 minority students, Hispanic and African-American, coming together, struggling for a goal. That team that came out of that past academic year ended its season 6-4, the first winning season in close to 20 years at Southwest College. And it wasn't even just about their opportunity to share their talent and expertise in playing athletics. The average GPA of that football team was 2.65. And of that team, 15 students was a 3.0. That is what we talk about changing lives. And I must say, and I know Margay Miller would call me out if I didn't say it, he was given Coach of the Year after one season. That is what it means to change lives. What happens outside these gates? You may not have those individuals engaging the way that they engage here on campus. We're not only providing an education, we're providing an opportunity for individuals to go back into their community, into their home, and to change their home, where now they can see each other not as adversaries, but as friends, having the same goal of uplifting one another in their community. So by changing that neighborhood, changing that home rather, we are changing that neighborhood. And that neighborhood is changing the city, and that city is changing the state. And that state will change this country, and by changing the country, you will change the world. Everything that we do here, the seed that we plant here at Southwest College is bigger than each and every one of us, because that seed one day may change the world. We are thankful for the Cox Building, that Odessa Cox has been named after Odessa Cox. The little theater that we are now sitting in and occupying is tangential to the Cox Building. Where you sit is on what I would consider the ground of suffering, the ground of struggle. The idea of Southwest College actually came into the minds, if you will, of the community members almost 10 years prior to 1967. And if in fact it would have been allowed to go forward and have the charter ratified and the buildings built, we would have become part of the 1965 Higher Education Act. We would have been identified as one of those predominantly Black serving institutions, which means that we'd have been, if you will, entitled to the federal monies that would went along with that type of distinction. But we were established in 1967, but I'm thankful that through this academic year, through the past year, that the Board of Trustees, this Board of Trustees, ratified the resolution to recognize Southwest College as an historical Black college in this district. And I say that not to be distinguished from any one of the other colleges, but I say it with pride as a recognition of the struggle that brought Southwest College into existence. And as I close, I think I'm pretty much past 7 minutes at this point. I just want to say that yesterday, we had the state chancellor here in this building, on this stage, Dr. Sonia Christian. Yesterday, we had our chancellor of the Los Angeles Community College District here on this stage in this building. Since the existence of Southwest College, it has never been done where both individuals that occupy the highest positions in this district and in this state was in this building at the same time on this stage. Southwest College is changing things in this community. We had 400 students who had registered. We served over 1,600 students yesterday because of the individuals yesterday because of the flyer that was sent out saying the chancellors are going to be here and they're going to be here to listen to you. 1,600 individuals walked through the Student Services building. 400 was originally registered. We are thankful for the work that we do here. And I want to end with this. I was asked last year, what are we doing to continue to reach out and serve our diverse community here? Not only from the standpoint of gender, not only from the standpoint of ethnicity, but those who want to come here because of the safety that Southwest College provides. I just want to announce that we have commenced and commissioned the LGBTQ+ Center. It is in place at Southwest College. And so I want to just thank both of our Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Lawrence Bradford. And also I want to appreciate Dr. Tangela Alford, our new Vice President of Student Services. And just to close, because he will always be with us, he will certainly always be with me. The efforts that we have made over these months, I want to thank Mr. Blanchard for his work and for his service. Welcome to Southwest College.
I'm sure nobody wants to go after Dr. Culpepper. Anybody else?
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to speak, members of the board, Chancellor Rodriguez. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Culpepper for his kind comment about our partnership. I'm glad, Anthony, that in some small way, our collaboration helped lead you to that significant achievement with your football team. So I'm glad we could help out. You laugh, I'm serious. Okay, a couple of quick updates. As a result of the articulation agreement signed with Seattle University, West is in the second round of discussions to begin a transfer program in climate change between our institution and Seattle University. I'm glad to announce that we just received notification of another grant in the apprenticeship pathway demonstration project through the state so that we can begin turning more of our apprenticeship programs into full-blown pathways towards a degree. Yesterday was a really good day at West because we had the opportunity to have the first meeting of the APITA affinity group, and we're so glad that First Vice President Ina was there to help us launch that. And we had a special Black History Month presentation between the Climate Center and Black Scholars United, in which we brought on campus an urban farmer who talked about the importance of urban agriculture and urban farming and how our students could participate in that. And finally, West has been recognized in the national news by MSNBC or MS News and by NBC News for our bachelor's degree. So I'd like to thank the board for all your advocacy, the chancellor for all the work you've done, Ms. Hidalgo for making sure the word gets out, but most importantly to all my faculty who created the program that we're all so proud of anyway, and to the students who are very much a representative of the work that we all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rolf Schleicher, Vice President of Admin Service from Pierce College. Chancellor Rodriguez, President Hernandez, and Trustee President Henderson. Sorry about that, a little stuttering there. Anyways, I want to give you a little bit of stats on Pierce College, but before I do that, I'm here on behalf of President Aguilar, who is at the Community College Baccalaureate Conference in Georgia, and she's advocating on behalf of the district. So I want to thank her for giving me this opportunity to come here today and talk to you about some of the stats at Pierce College. We've had a very busy week here at the college. Obviously, spring is a very important semester for us. At this particular time, we have about a 14% increase in enrollment. And kind of a breakdown, the composite there is that we have about 118 hybrid classes, 776 in-person classes, 843 online classes. So we're seeing still a real strong push on the online part, but our parking lots are full. So we're seeing students come back and engaging, and I'm really happy that our faculty, they're doing the great effort of coming back and making it a very enticing environment for our students. We are also adding classes. Obviously, we're looking at our fill rates and we're looking at the demand and trying to make sure we calibrate appropriately. Our goal is to make sure that we look at the most important part of the business, which is our instructional component, and add classes where we can. We are finding some challenges sometimes finding classes at the ideal time, but we're still making that demand work. And the deans are working very hard in academic affairs to add where we can. I'd like to also highlight in student services, we have a club rush going on with 50 clubs at Pierce College. They're enticing students to participate beyond just classroom experience, and that's really great. We also have some experiences going on with our Welcome Center and our extended hours into other areas of support. That's critically important because our students many times are a little bit lost on the campus. They get a lot of information from our website, but directing to the right location is really critical. We have other events going on. For example, it's Black History Month. We have 6 activities going on. In fact, we just had 2 in the last week, one on last Wednesday, which was kind of a trivia and celebration of Black History Month. And that's being led by Dr. Clinda McLean. She's our coordinator for the Umoja program. And also she's facilitating a lot of the coordination for counseling at our campus. And she has great insight. So she's also having appreciation days for our Black faculty members, and also for our students who are going to be recognized for their scholarly capabilities. And at this particular time, we're just really trying to put a lot of effort into that program and make sure that our multicultural center is supporting the village as well. On the front of enterprise, we have some activities going on. We have a big shoot coming up that's kind of a tribute back. It's called the Maven Project. It's a big festival that they're going to have on the property. So you can attend that even if you wanted to, because it's really locked down. It's about a film shoot going back to the Jackson 5 family. We also have 2 large concerts that we're going to have with the Palooza Festival. We've had that last year where over 5,000 people participate in each one of those events. And it's really great for the community to have them come back into college and kind of engage us above and beyond the educational components. So Pierce is doing a lot of work to be done. And thank you for having me here today. Any comments, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Henderson, Chancellor Rodriguez, and trustees. It's good to be back at Southwest College, and thank you for those words, Dr. Culpepper, to see this beautiful campus supporting our community, which I used to be here over 10 years ago. So good to be back at Southwest. A lot of good things happening in honor of Black History Month. Yesterday was one of my highlights. I had a chance to spend time with our Umoja students and our Black and faculty staff, just break bread and kind of hear about, the things that are important to them and ways we can continue to support them at LACCD College. And also we have many activities for Black History Month throughout the month. So we're excited to continue honoring the good work that's happening in our community. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Maria Villos for her leadership and support. Last week, she set up a meeting for Trustee Henderson and I to meet with Council Member Hugo Sotos Martinez and to talk about all the issues that are important for our community, housing, ways we can partner, ways we can continue to support our students in our community. So a lot of good conversations and hopefully future partnerships. And the week before that, I had a chance to sit and have a conversation with Council Member Hilda Solis in terms of just talking about the same issues, job opportunities, way we can connect with CTE and things we can do in our community. So excited about the future of LACCD College and what we can do as a district. And we have a big event happening on our campus, March 19th. in celebration of Women's History Month. We will have a brunch on our campus from 9:30 to 12 at Los Angeles City College. The theme of this year's event is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. This event, it'll be a nice brunch setup, so hopefully many of you will be in attendance for that event. And we are honored to have keynote speaker Molly McGregor, who is one of the co-founders of Women's History Month. So a lot of good activities happening on our campus. And just many things in terms of enrollment. We have a huge day in March, on March 18th to the 21st. We're anticipating hosting 2,000 students from our local high school partners to talk about ways we can support them and hopefully enroll them for the summer and fall semester. So thank you and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Henderson, Trustees, Chancellor. Great to be here at Southwest College. Thank you so much for hosting us. Again, this month we're celebrating Black History Month. A series of events at ELAC that we'd like to invite you to honor and commemorate the profound impact that our African-American communities have had throughout the communities here, obviously the state, the nation, and the world. Tomorrow, we're hosting a Taste of Soul. This will be an opportunity for various folks who come through and showcase various foods from that blending of the Southern Caribbean to the African-American culinary tradition. So if you're around, you're hungry, 12 o'clock, come around and ELAC and join us. This is going to be a great opportunity to be able to showcase some of the cultural impact that our communities have had on East LA College. On the 28th, we are hosting a Lunar Year Fair. It's going to be cool. We're going to have a celebration again with Global Coffee. Also, we're engaging in a lot of cultural activities, and this will take place in the ELAC Quad. This will be from 11 on, so join us again if you're around. We also have, as all of our other colleges, planning several Women's History Month events in the month of March. We'll send those through in the next couple of weeks. Hope you can join us for those as well. A couple of updates on the college. First of all, I do want to announce that ELAC is launching its first credit and language program for CDC this spring. Thank you for that. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is a certificate program that will be looking for those that are becoming assistant teachers with an emphasis on infant toddler. Again, full credit program. And I'm telling you right now, we've been talking to folks. It's already gaining tremendous support. We anticipate the classes will fill. The next step will be to look at other in-language programs that are high demand in the industry. So again, I want to commend our faculty, staff, and administrative team for putting together this program. That will start, by the way, spring of 2024. So it's starting in the second part of this semester, and we should have the first cohort to graduate by the fall of 2024. Next, I want to talk about the pilot program. You know that the State Chancellor tapped ELAC to begin a pilot program with 9th graders. The update is this: we now have 11 schools within our service area that are part of the 9th grade program. We are going to have over 1,000 students, 1,000 9th graders within our service area, taking at least one college course. And we anticipate that the program will continue to grow into next year. So I want to commend again the team, Vice President Dueñas and his team for taking the charge, working with the state. Again, we're up to 11 schools of students in the 9th grade are taking college courses through ELAC. Finally, I also want to, again, thank our faculty, our staff, our administrative team. As we now have, ELAC has the largest headcount for credit of any college in the community college within the state. We are the largest of credit headcount, and we couldn't do this without thank you. We couldn't do this really without the support of our team. Of course, we're part of a larger system within LACCD, one of 9 colleges. We're very proud to be part of this district, and we continue to work with our 8 colleges to provide the highest quality of education for every one of our students within LACCD. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Happy Black History Month and Lunar New Year. Dr. McKeever, I've been trying to convince my wife that I don't need a day to say I love you, but I haven't been successful. So I delivered flowers this morning. So I want to just invite everybody to our EXP Women in STEM Career Day at Harbor College, February 29th. It's going to be an exciting day. Also want to give a huge shout out to our women's head coach, soccer head coach, Art Caballero. We had 2 All-American scholars athletes at Harbor. Only 33 individuals get awarded this award nationwide. So Andrea Reyes and Yamna Ariola of our women's soccer team achieved those achievements. So congratulations to them. Yes, and then I also want to keep on your radar as Dr. Roman trips over everything. Dr. Roman, you always give me the opening. I want to remind everybody of our 4th annual Culinary Arts Cup competition on May 10th, 2024. The theme is New Orleans, so be ready. Be ready. And to my colleagues, Dr. Ornelas and Dr. McQuarters, don't plan on taking that cup back. So just clean it and have it ready for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Henderson, members of the board, Chancellor Rodriguez. Happy to be at a college. Few things I want to share. Like all of our colleges, Mission College is showing growth this semester. We're up 15% from where we were last year. So really excited about that. Particularly excited because our Pacoima site has already, 2nd week of the semester, we've got close to 700 enrollments. Yes, we're really excited. Just over 400 students. So we're really excited that in our 2nd semester, we're serving the community and meeting the needs of the community. Also want to congratulate our theater students. Under the leadership of our faculty member, Professor Bob Kakusa, our students were invited to compete in the Kennedy Festival with their Macbeth production. So we're eagerly awaiting the results of that performance. And just a couple of invitations to you all. Want to extend an invitation to International Women's Day, hosted at Mission College. It's a statewide event, so we're really honored that the event is coming to Mission on March 8th. Of course, the Women's Caucus under the leadership of Trustee Hoffman and Trustee Little from Compton have asked us to host, and we're really proud to be the host campus for this event. So hopefully we will see you all there. And then finally, of course, our famous Food and Wine Festival tickets go on sale tomorrow. So mark your calendars, April 27th. So see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, Trustee Henderson and trustees and Chancellor. I want to do 2 highlights and just one invite for the Black History Month. The first one, in terms of highlight, the cosmetology faculty at Trade Tech had an opportunity to meet up with the makeup and hair stylist local 706. They not only had an opportunity to tour Warner Brothers hair and makeup department, but they're also working on course content to prepare their students for careers as hairstylists and makeup artists in film and television production. The second highlight, I had an opportunity to visit a community planning class that's in language. So it's taught completely in Spanish, and it was amazing to be able to hear the voices of students and also to be able to hear opportunities for improvement as well. So they also gave us feedback in terms of like what are the additional courses and certificates and programs we would like to potentially explore. And lastly is an event I just wanted to share out. So ICOLA, which stands for the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, is going to actually perform at Trade Tech on February 24th at 11 a.m. That's a Saturday. It's the largest majority Black orchestra in America. It will be a group of up to about 100 participants that will share their music experience on that particular day. So everyone's invited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Just a few updates related to Black History Month for Valley College. If you have some time tomorrow, we have a rhythm and paint with Randy Butler. That's going to be a lot of fun in our Gallery Plaza from 1 to 3. A lecture and workshop from Dr. Frank Harris III on the 21st from 2 to 4. That's online. African drum making and naming on the 22nd from 1 to 3 in the art gallery. A Valley Young Black Scholars Day and Heritage Celebration on the 28th from 9:30 to 2. And then lastly, Holistic Healing and Wellness on the 29th from 1 to 3. So a good collection of terrific events. We hope that you can enjoy some of them with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everybody? Okay. Thank you, Presidents. Next up, we will have Trustee Eno, if you would summarize the proceedings of the Legend Public Affairs Committee as well as your APISA Advisory Committee.
Yes. Hello, everyone. If we look tired or not tired, it's because we've been traveling on behalf of the district for the past couple of weeks. We were in Sacramento 2 weeks ago, and then DC this past week, lobbying with our local legislators and federal folks to really bring back the money for you all to then execute all of the great work that you've been doing. And so for me personally, it means a lot. I had no idea in this role I'd be doing these kinds of things, but it's really empowering and it's really great to be able to advocate, and it's because of all the great work that you've all been doing. So I digress from the actual legislative meeting, but I just wanted to acknowledge that. So we have some very exciting things coming down the pipeline. We did start the new legislative cycle. As you heard, the budget is not that great, and it's quite challenging, but nonetheless, LACCD is advocating and fighting for all of us to ensure that we have the proper resources for our students. Something that and I know the chancellor is going to be talking a lot about it as well, but he did tell me to take some time on this. So big things locally that we're advocating for is the baccalaureate degree for nurses at our college. So there's currently a pilot program where they're hoping to get 15 colleges, 15 districts offer ADN to BSN programs. And we hope, our district being so large, offering the 7 programs that we do for nursing, that we can be one of those programs. So fortunately, Senator Roth is the one that wrote it, but we are co-sponsoring it. So that's huge for LACCD. So we were able to partner up with them. We want to say thank you a lot to the Senate, as well as the CCLC and the Nurses Union, who are also supporting this legislation because it's critical to fill the nursing gap. We're also with Assemblymember Santiago supporting the baccalaureate. So now that we do have successful baccalaureate degrees, we want to ensure that those students don't have to worry about the financial burden of that. So we're trying to get the Promise program extended to those baccalaureate programs. Yeah, it's really small in number right now, but it would mean, a big impact for those students getting through those programs. Also, we are trying to advocate for Black Achievement Center for Academic Excellence, and we did get interest through Assemblymember Bryan. So hopefully we will also be able to push that through, as well as a climate to get a mobile center for West LA to go along with their climate center that they already have. We know locally that there's a part-time tutoring issue for our LACCD students. And so fortunately, our local labor leaders have also cleared the path for us to hopefully advocate to get rid of that bump in the road for those part-time students. And then we're also just really advocating for financial aid equity. And so that was at the local level. And then at the federal level, we're doing a lot of work, investing in workforce development, addressing the basic needs for our students. And then just generally expanding access and affordability. So we have been, the legislative team has been extremely busy. I would like to acknowledge Maria Veloz, who's here today. She deserves a title raise and an overall raise, and just the work that she's done for us is impeccable over the past several years. And I know we're going to set up a committee of the whole, because oftentimes folks don't know the additional work that we do on behalf of all of you, and in partnership with you. And so, all of the past earmarks and grants and support that we've gotten from the state and federal is huge. And it's really what's made us so successful and able to do some really cool things. I also want to acknowledge all of the lobby groups that have been supporting us, because they are our eyes and ears, for the state and at the federal level. And they really help us make really informed, good decisions on all of that. So that's pretty much the legislative component. I would say, please attend the meetings. It's always really great to have employee support as well as the work that we do, because you are all on the ground doing the work. And so we need to make sure when we advocate for you, we're speaking from, ideally firsthand, experiences. And so your partnerships are really critical in these components, especially as we move forward. The other part that I'm going to continue with I know it's an antiquated title and fully noted that we will change it, but I am the chair to the API Advisory Committee to the Chancellor. And so we met on Monday, January 22nd. Ideally, we will meet at least a couple times per semester. It was really great. We were able to kind of identify what we're doing currently for the district for this population. We got to hear a couple of student speakers. One was an international kinesiology student, and the other one was a returning adult. The returning student was a kinesiology major, and the international student was a mathematics major. So a wide breadth for what this population encompasses. And so I think that's part of the challenge on how to identify services and support, because the population is so broad. So I think hopefully we will reestablish the professional group to be able to better identify the needs of this population, both from an employee level and as a student level. Other things that we discussed was the APAHI conference, which is coming up in April. So thankfully, thanks to the district and the chancellor, we are the top sponsor for this conference, as well as we are able to send at least one representative from each college, as well as students who are representing LACCD. So that's really exciting. We also heard from our one program at LA Harbor College, APAS, to see what they are doing. And I really hope that the other colleges will, if they have a significant population, that they can also cultivate and create some sort of programming for the student population, because it is growing. It's the largest growing population in the state right now. And then finally, we did discuss the affinity celebration happening on May 18th at Harbor College. So hopefully all of you can attend. Ideally in the future, we will have the programming to support the students to then feel a part of something, to then be able to celebrate them at the end. I also wanted to acknowledge Black History Month, the Lunar New Year, and it is also the anniversary of Executive Order 9066, which is when the Japanese Americans were incarcerated during World War II in American concentration camps. So something also to be mindful of. And so that is that. Also, just on a side note too, at the beginning when we were acknowledging folks that had passed, Dr. Melgizo was one of my professors in the USC program, and she will be missed very much. And I was really saddened and shocked to hear of her passing. But she is one of the reasons why I sit here before you today on this board, because the work that we do is so important and our advocacy. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Trustee Vella, could you please summarize the proceedings of the Facilities Master Planning and Oversight Committee?
Yes, absolutely. We met on January 24th. We discussed the LA Pierce College Child Development Academic Facility, which is going extremely well. We're happy to report that it's on time, and really a pretty amazing design, and how it will really be a place for not only parents, but the actual children to be able to work together and be able to, have the resources to grow and learn. So I think it's a really fantastic opportunity and a great investment for us. We also discussed really kind of, and I want to thank Mr. Ellerton here for bringing up some of our challenges, but we are working on them, including the LACCD Enterprise Resource Planning System that we're going to implement. And so that's actually extremely good news, right on time. So we do have the RFPs that are going to be coming out, again, to really just revolutionize, put up to date, not only our business services side, but our HR side. So this is something that's heavily in demand, and we're on track to ensuring that it's implemented on time and that it's done quickly. So I was really happy to see this finally moving through. And then finally, something that's really impressive is we have a lot of stormwater projects. And so as you all know, with the rains and the runoff, it is extremely important for our colleges to be able to participate in some of these stormwater program projects. And so, we have 61 currently ongoing. Some of them you've seen here at Southwest College outside by our bus stops. But it is really a great, fantastic way to help the environment and help us manage runoff water. And then we went through the list of active construction projects. I won't name all of them, but there are many that are currently going on. And then I, again, want to thank the facilities team for letting us know of the active designs that are currently going on as well. Again, this is pre-construction. So just wanted to thank them for putting this forward and having us review them. I want to thank Trustee Hernandez and Eno for joining us at that FinPOC meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Student Trustee Cordova, could you please summarize the proceedings of the Student Affairs Committee that you chaired?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. At the Student Affairs Committee, we had a couple items on our agenda. We discussed some of the issues that might arise with the parking, since we are now charging for it. I did hear that a couple schools aren't charging yet, so I'm pleased to hear that, so that students can have some time to figure out their situations. But my advisor did inform me that we are now offering a substitution through EOPS if they cannot afford the parking. And we also discussed ALEKS, which is a service required through the chemistry department. It's currently not accessible through EOPS, so we're hoping that that subscription will eventually be used through that resource so that students can have a way to pay for it. We did hear that it is OSS friendly, so we're glad to hear that. I also was able to work with some of the delegates at the SSCCC to propose a resolution at the state. Of course, we do need a body or student body support. So we were able to present it at SAC, and I was able to go to Harbor yesterday at their ASG meeting, and we got their support as well. So thanks to Harbor, we'll be presenting that to SSCCC. And that resolution was to propose a raise for salary for bilingual student workers, since they currently do not receive compensation for that. We are also discussing the BO6 hold impact. Currently, I believe campuses are working to try to get like a payment plan installed just so we can get our students back on campus. I also did inform SAC of the CCLC Legislative Day Summary because I wanted them to know just all the invisible work that is being done that maybe students don't know about, because you guys do work hard, everyone at this district. So I commend you for that. I also was able to update them on the Everbridge app launch, so it will now be accessible to all students. They also did critique the app and add a section where students will be able to report sexual harassment directly from the app. So thank you for hearing us, or I vocalized my opinion on that. Thank you for implementing that. And of course, we discussed the March in March. I have a lot of eager students that want to go and just voice their opinion. We did vote on 2 action items. One, which will add a section to our liaison report that will include a delegate report at future SAC meetings from the SSCCC, because we think it is important to collaborate. Well, I think it is important. And of course, since I now have the support of my SAC, they also think it's important to collaborate so that when students have ideas and they're presented, they're not just kind of discouraged and they're like, oh, those are state efforts. We can kind of provide them with the resources that they can take to bring it to a state level. So I think it's important to have those delegate reports at our SAC meetings. And we also voted on ASGOU attendance at SAC, which I was pleased to find out that the bylaws of the ASO already includes it. So section 3A E requires that ASO presidents consistently attend the District Student Affairs Committee meetings. We currently have had 2 schools that have not attended any of our SAC meetings, which is fine. We just encourage that they come to our future meetings because it's impossible for me to be on all 9 campuses. So I would like to collaboratively just join our districts as one. And in order to do that, we need participation from our ASG presidents. So yeah, that is what we have discussed. And for future plans, we are continuing to work on filling our pantries and working with DPSS for the free phone tablet resource. And of course, EBT accessibility on campus. So thank you. I think that is all.
Thank you, Student Trustee Cordova.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I cut right.
You're the star. Next up, we'll have Trustee Hernandez, if you could please summarize the proceedings of the Student Basic Needs Ad Hoc Committee that you chaired on February 9th.
So we have throughout the past year, we've been hearing from our nonprofit partners about how things are going with our pilot program. And we're just starting to now bring in students who have been part of those programs to get some feedback from them. And so as you can imagine, the feedback varies from, provider to student. And so it's been really, really informative. And we're hoping that this feedback will help us inform how to improve our program, how to do a mid-contract review of our nonprofit providers, and then to also inform our other efforts around housing. On that note, what we did is we started talking about the housing policy, which is in draft form. That has been provided to all the members of the Basic Needs Committee for review and feedback. Really excited about this process. If you've been wondering about student housing, about who's going to qualify, what the unit load's going to be like, what the rules are going to be, all of those like really important details, that is going to be encompassed in the housing policy. So as you can imagine, that's a very important document. The Basic Needs Committee will be providing input. We are in the spirit of shared governance. This will be something that everyone in the entire community will get an opportunity to weigh in on. This will go to the Academic Senate, to all of our stakeholders so that people can weigh in on these really, really important issues. And we are just beginning that process. So stay tuned. I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot about that in the future. And then other than that, we are, for those of you that attended the Housing Summit in November, we've gotten the results back from that, and we have a great a number of materials that really show the feedback that we received, and we want to make sure that those in the community know that we have gathered that feedback, we have digested it, and we want to make sure to put that back out there so folks can see what others feel about housing and what their priorities are. So we are sending that out if we haven't already, and we want to make sure to disseminate that far and wide. Obviously, it's not the end of all feedback. Please let folks know that if they have other things that they want to weigh in on in regards to housing, there'll be plenty of opportunities to do that in the near future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will summarize the proceedings of the Institutional Effectiveness and Student Success Committee that also met on January 24th. We received 3 informatives. The first were the results from the Food and Housing Insecurity Student Survey, and which highlighted the work that still needs to be done regarding student housing. But as VP Hernandez has stated many times, we need to find a sustainable way to provide that support for students so that it's much more meaningful. And also we received an update on the district strategic plan and an enrollment update. And I'm very, very pleased to say that across the district, we've seen incredible strides in the work that the colleges have done towards enrollment. And since we are on the campus of LA Southwest College, give President Dr. Anthony Culpepper kudos for the increases in student enrollment here at LA Southwest College. So kudos, college presidents, for the work that you're doing and supporting your VPs and all of your staff. And next we'll have Trustee Hoffman. If you could please give a summary of the proceedings from the Budget and Finance Committee and any updates that you have as president of the CCCT.
Thank you, President Henderson. So we had a presentation by Mark McDonald at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting with the 2024-2025 governor's budget. Several topics were discussed, and I know we've discussed them probably several times since, but the budget timeline, the state budget process, how the governor addresses a $58 billion budget problem, Prop 98, California out-year budgets, and affordable student housing, 2023-2024 Budget Act, to name a few of the issues that were discussed at our meeting. The May revise, as you know, is expected to be released by May 14th with updated financial forecasts. And the legislature has to pass a balanced budget by June 15th, 2024. Much of our advocacy in Sacramento was around the budget. There is, as you all know, a withdrawal from the K-14 rainy day fund to support the student-centered funding formula and to avoid cuts in the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 budgets. So we fully expect the COLA from this year to continue to be funded, correct, Chancellor? And then next year, we're looking at a 0.76% COLA. I feel like I mean, most of us in the community college space feel like we got very lucky with the governor's budget, and you know, we were advocating up in Sacramento, and the feelings around the work that we're doing are very positive within the legislature and the governor's office. So we were really, really grateful. Mr. Maury Pearl, I don't know if Maury's here today, but we always love his presentations. He presented on winter and spring 2024 semesters enrollment data, and enrollment for both semesters, as we all know, we've all been talking about, enrollment is up over 100% of what it was last year. So we're all very excited and grateful, and thank you, everyone, staff, faculty, administrators, for everything that you're doing to increase our student enrollment. Next, I'll just take another minute to talk a little bit about my role as president with the CCCT board for the league. I have 4 more months, you know, in May, we elect new officers, and while this has been very exciting, it's been extremely busy, and it's a lot of a time commitment since I have a day job as well. As a matter of fact, I'm flying to Sacramento for consultation council tomorrow. So we elected a new slate of officers, and when you colleagues come to the conference in May, you'll find out who those new officers are, and I'll be serving as immediate past president. We will be voting, I think, in April, Lupe, on elections for the trustee board from around the state. And so we're accepting nominations until February 15th. We talked about the budget in our CCCT board meeting. I also have to say that the league is a co-sponsor of SB 895. They haven't really been a sponsor of a bill in a very long time, at least in the time that I've been involved with the league. And I did take a vote online prior to our board meeting to make sure that we had support from trustees around the state. There was one dissension on our board, and when we came back together in person for our board meeting, he requested that we do a vote for reconsideration so that it would be unanimous from the CEO board and the trustee board. And thank you, Academic Senate President Echeverria. I know the statewide Academic Senate, I don't know if they've taken a position, but wonderful. That's great. And we're appreciative. So thank you. Really, really thank you. There's also a bill that we learned about that's being put out by Assembly staff right now. And I don't know if there's actually an author on sexual harassment. I know that members of FAC have had an opportunity to review the language. I don't know if the Academic Senate has an opportunity to review the language. I'm anxious to see what all the language is, but we did get a presentation at our legislative conference. And so we'll be watching that very carefully. And I think that, hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have input on that. And it might be a 2-year bill is what I'm hearing. We got a DEIA update because the league, the trustee board has been doing a lot of work in the DEIA space. And then we also had our legislative conference where I had an opportunity to meet with Senator Roth individually and introduce him. He spoke at our closing session and he's very committed to this bill. I think, this is his legacy bill and he will do everything he can to make sure that it gets passed. So we should all rally around Senator Roth. He, I think, has a couple of co-authors now. And there are other districts that are coming on board as well. Riverside is playing a big role because he's in the Riverside area. And then we had a great experience in Washington, DC. I had the opportunity to advocate and hold hands with faculty as well as Academic Senate, the Chancellor's Office, and the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. And it's always great when we can go in together to advocate for the things that are important for our students, the reauthorization of WIOA. We also, to your request, Trustee Vella, we also want a seat at the table on those WIB boards because we really feel like we are the ones that are training the workforce and the community colleges need to have a seat. In LA, I think it's, they recognize us, but there are other regions around the state where that's not always recognized. And I also want to give a shout out, President McQuarters. I was sitting on a committee with the Association for Community College Trustees, and a gentleman was sitting next to me, another trustee, and he said, "Is Al McQuarters here at this conference?" And I said, "No, he's not. How do you know him?" And he's a trustee in your former district, Andrew Spear. So he wanted me to let you know that he said hello. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to item E2. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Moved by VP Eno.
I'll second.
Thank you. Second by Hoffman. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Thank you. And next, item F1. May I have a motion and a second on the resolution commemorating the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion made by VP Eno.
I'll second.
Thank you. Second made by Trustee Hoffman. Any discussion? Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you, colleagues. And now for item F2, may I have a motion and a second for celebration of or recognition of National Engineers Week?
So moved.
Moved by VP Eno.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Trustee Vella. Any discussion? Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Thank you. Now, item F3, may I have a motion and a second on the district academic employees retirement?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, can I say something?
Yes, please.
So first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of the academic folks who are retiring. We truly appreciate your service to the district. And I started to go through and add up all the years. And then I stopped when I got to like the third person because the first person had 48 years. And I thought, oh my gosh, this number is going to get really high. But I think that shows such a commitment and dedication to our colleges and our district. And I just really want to say congratulations. I hope you're going off to do something wonderful and relaxing and spend time with your loved ones. Because according to President McKeever, we're not his loved ones. So go off and spend time with your loved ones. And thank you so much for everything that you've done for us for all these years. If If you look, I mean, these are a lot of years, folks. So thank you. That's after your pinhole surgery.
Would anybody, any other trustees like to comment? Okay, so to reiterate, trustee Hoffman, congratulations. Anyone with the perseverance to stick with the job for 48 years, hats off, enjoy the future. Yes, ooh. Okay, now we have item G1,
Roll
our
call.
report.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Roll call.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Thank you, colleagues. My apologies. I'm moving on now to item G1. I'll turn the mic over to the Chancellor for his report.
Yes, thank you, Board President Henderson. Again, good afternoon, members of the board, colleagues. Wanted to first reflect that it's been at least a couple of years since we've been to a college campus, maybe more. My memory's fuzzy, but it is good to be on a college campus. So I wanted to recognize Dr. Culpepper and his entire team that has provided such a wonderful accommodations. It really gives us an opportunity to see what is occurring here, to be part of the community. And I know our board members, and this was the idea of our board president. So, let's explore this notion of returning to our colleges this academic year where we can. So we'll be providing a schedule of locations as we move forward. So I wanted to, again, thank everyone, including our IT teams, both the Vice Chancellor Lids, the district IT team. I know Eduardo's here, his team, the LASC. It takes a lot of folks to make this activity portable and indeed accessible to all. So it does not go and recognize all the work that goes on behind the scenes so that the board can have a productive and smooth meeting. So thank you on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Moving forward, this Chancellor's report is a little longer than usual, but it needs to be. It has actually 5 components, and I have 2 collaborators in the Chancellor's report. Bill Ellerton, who you've heard of earlier in his report on a different subject. He'll be carrying 3 JLMBC items, one of which is an action item, but 2 are informatives in a presentation. And then I'll ask Dr. Ruben Smith to provide an update on our PMO or recompete. So on with my report. First, let's start with the next slide, please, on enrollments. We've heard a lot about this wonderful news, if you will, on how LACCD is doing this spring semester. And this is really a accumulation of a lot of work from a lot of very talented people, very dedicated people over the years. During the pandemic period, we took a significant slide, losing well over 20%, just under 30%, and some colleges over 30% of their enrollments over time. But now we have restored the vast majority and are inching towards our 2017 levels, as has been reported. I'm very, very happy to report that all 9 colleges are up. 8 of the 9 colleges are experiencing a double-digit growth, and 3 of our colleges are over 20% growth for this semester over last semester, which makes it a cumulative impact of about 18% increase in FTES and about 15% headcount as of the report from this morning. So again, I think that deserves a round of applause one more time. Our college presidents, our faculty, our outreach teams, remarkable effort and indeed results from that. So I wanted to report that. If you look across the board here, there's essentially increases across all groups, as you can see there. While some numbers are smaller, we're happy that the Native American student population is up. Our Black students are up by 12%, a significant 5% growth of a very large number of Latino students, multi-ethnic students. But I wanted to point out too, there's almost an 11,000 increase of white students enrolling at LACCD over our 9 campuses. So I thought that was an interesting point to note to the board. Modality is essentially half and half. So we'll continue to encourage and put classes in the books that students need, demand, and so that they can complete their degrees and certificates in a timely fashion. But I wanted to note that is moving towards
higher number of in-person classes slowly, but we're about 50-50. Moving on to the next area there, you heard at all the college presidents report out and others on the importance of and how LACCD celebrates Black History Month. If you want a one-stop shop to that, there is the monthly or a Black History Month website. There's the QR code. We can get a sense of what's going on around the district and at our 9 colleges. I'll just note one program tomorrow from 12 to 1:30 is a master class, one of 2 that we're doing, and maybe more. And this is in part of the historic and important relationship that we have with the MEND. And tomorrow, its founder, one of its founders, Dr. Ed Bush, will lead us in a session from 12 to 1:30. It's online, and invite everybody to join us. So that is tomorrow. And I want to thank Dr. Regina Smith for helping to coordinate that, as well as other Black History Month activities throughout the district. Moving forward to the next piece, we've heard a lot about Senate Bill 895. Thank you for all the reports. This is one of, if not the highest priority for the district in terms of its legislative activities for the year. It will be a game changer with our 1,300 students or so that are enrolled at our 7 nursing schools. This could be a significant way to redress what we anticipate about more or less a 40,000 registered nurse shortage in California by 2030. And we simply do not have the capacity in our public universities to meet anywhere near that need. We simply don't. We simply don't. If you consider the 9,000 or so nurses that are granted degrees every single year in California, 75% of them are done in private institutions. Stated differently, 25% are done at the CSU and UC. So we simply need to proliferate the number of healthcare professionals in California, and the 70+ nursing schools throughout the state of California are perfectly positioned to offer the upper division coursework to again meet the need, and most importantly to address the health disparities that are present in rural, urban, suburban communities, particularly disproportionately impacted poor communities where we need healthcare to be a universal practice and a universal, if you will, condition. So enough said on that. Thank you all for the reports that indicate how important this is. We're getting lots and lots of support. There has been an assembly bill that's also been authored by Curio in the Central Valley. So we're looking at that bill as well to see where there might be an opportunity to collaborate. But the interest is high, and I think the need is great. And we're going to continue to lean in on this discussion. And I appreciate both the District Academic Senate taking a formal position, looking to our ASCCC to do the same. And also, I think on Monday, we petitioned and requested that our faculty union take a position here as well. So we can all work together to support this and get across the finish line. A lot of work has to happen between now. It goes to the Senate, Assembly committees, it goes to the floors, it passes all those, it goes to the governor, and he has until October to sign, and that's where we want to be. A signed bill of 895 that will allow us to begin these programs as soon as January 1st, 2025. So with that in mind, let me move on to the next item here. And before I get to and ask Bill to take the microphone again, I want to read a couple of things that are important, and I want to read them into the record because it's important for us and important for our district to have this on the record. Let me get my notes here. Got so many papers here. Here it is. On December the 8th, I wrote essentially a dear colleague letter to the entire district on behalf of our Board of Trustees, Board President, in which we stated that we, the Board of Trustees, and I reaffirmed and want to reinforce in unequivocal terms our vigilance to maintain and promote a safe, inclusive, and respectful learning and work environment that is free of harassment in any form for all members of our academic community here at LACCD. Let us be very clear here. Sexual harassment, discrimination have no place at LACCD. The Board of Trustees and district remain firmly committed to fostering a campus climate that promotes respect and civility at our workplace and in our classrooms. I want to reaffirm that these issues are serious. Where lapses may have occurred in the past, this district is fully committed to improving our policies and practices and to reinforcing our vigilance and our responsibilities to promote an environment that is inclusive and again, respectful and safe. Specifically, and with respect to reviewing our current policies to prevent sexual harassment and discrimination, we have an office that actually has responsibility for this. It's the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access, or what we call it, ODIA. They're responsible for ensuring compliance with federal and state statutes and district-wide goals related to the prohibition of harassment and discrimination and to improving diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I've authorized ODIA with the support of the Human Resources Division and the leadership of Vice Chancellor Williams and the Office of the General Counsel and the leadership of Ms. Diga to identify external resources for the purposes of reviewing our district-wide policies, plans, our systems, training programs, processes, and procedures pertinent to sexual harassment and discrimination to ensure their effectiveness and their compliance with the changing legal standards and with best practices. We will continue to provide ODIA the support and the resources it needs to fulfill its organizational mission. Related to administrative oversight of our board policies, that is the work of our Deputy Chancellor, Kathleen Burke. In my discussions with her, I want to confirm that we have in the last year reviewed and adopted board policy 3430, the prohibition of unlawful harassment, and board policy 3433, the prohibition of sexual harassment under Title IX. We are awaiting the federal changes to Title IX this spring, which will invariably amend the principal district policies that govern the prohibition of sexual harassment throughout our district, BPAP 3540, and sexual and other assaults on campus, and C14. So this spring, we'll have another opportunity to review these policies to ensure their effectiveness and compliance with the changing legal standards and again, best practices. Furthermore, we will conduct an external and independent audit of our district's procurement process to review and validate our current processes and to make recommendations with the full intention of implementing these recommendations from the external audit to improve our system and our procurement processes. Several weeks ago, we solicited proposals or bids, quotes, if you will, from very reputable organizations, firms here in Los Angeles and throughout the state. And we expect to receive responsive proposals very shortly, within a matter of days. So we will be reviewing those and making some actions forward. The board could see these contracts as soon as next month. In recent consultation with our DAS colleagues, they are requesting, as been reported today and in our monthly consultation yesterday, a request for the state auditor to review our sexual harassment and procurement policies. And I want to share, I'm very comfortable with that. And we'll be exploring timelines, responsibilities, the appropriate way to make a request, and we'll be assessing those in parallel to the other activities that are taking place, so we can move forward on this important review in both of these areas for the district. As these reports are being formed, as drafts are being circulated, as recommendations are being vetted, we'll solicit feedback formally, structure a way from all stakeholders, including students, faculty, staff, administrators, and commit to ongoing collaboration with a whole series of external organizations that have a lot of expertise in these particular areas, and our advocacy groups that we work with to continuously enhance their efforts to combat sexual harassment and discrimination. There's quite a few organizations that do stalwart work in this particular area. A couple other things to mention. Chaired by Board President Henderson, a Gender Equity Title IX ad hoc committee has been established for 2024. And with it, its goals of reviewing board policies, district policies and practices, and improving our prevention and responsiveness to gender equity issues, including sexual harassment. Also, Board President Henderson is looking now to schedule something very, very shortly. In addition, at the next regular board meeting of March 6th, we will be conducting a 2-hour sexual harassment training, a professional development workshop from 10 till noon for my executive team and the board of trustees. That includes college presidents and others who will be part of this in-person training on March the 6th. In conclusion, we recognize that there is serious work to do and that we're committed to doing it. As noted in the December 8th letter and noted in my multiple now communications, we'll conduct these external and independent audits of our district's sexual harassment policies that will review and validate our current processes and make recommendations to that. We'll do the same with our procurement processes with the full intention of implementing those recommendations from these audits. The goal is to improve. The goal is to be responsive, and the goal is to, again, to provide environments for teaching and learning that are safe, respectful, inclusive, and conducive to our best work. So I want to share this, and I know it took a while to read this off, but I wanted to put it in on behalf of Board President Henderson, our Board of Trustees, not just the seriousness of this, but the clarity of purpose and the intent to move forward. So with that, I will stop there, Madam President, and now I'll ask Mr. Ellerton to take the microphone. You have the next 3 items. There is an action item that's associated with medical and dental renewal rates that we do have to approve so we can continue our I don't know if workers' comp is included in that. But and again, I want to recognize Bill. Bill, how long have you been the chair of JLMBC?
It's got to be at least 5 years because I know I was there when we got our consultant and that contract just expired.
Okay, well, thank you for your leadership and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And so we're going to have pictures of no, I'm just kidding. All right, let's, can we click forward one? I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick. If you have any questions, specifically board members, I'll be more than happy to attempt to answer them. And if I can't, I know that HR staff will be able to. I don't have a button, so I don't know how to make it go forward. So basically, this is just the background. JLMBC is actually a rather unique entity within the state and community colleges. When we I'm going to go a little off script just because of the part-time healthcare issues and stuff that came out. And I got to know a lot more when involved in that and implementing that with CalPERS and other colleges that were participating. And it became very clear that this master benefits agreement that this district partakes in is really unique around the state. In fact, it's probably that way around the country, but I don't have that exposure. But statewide, they're stunned by how we actually do it. We have a caucus that involves all of our units. On the last couple of times, I was the one elected by that labor caucus to be the chief negotiator for the master benefits agreement. So when we get the benefits, it's every employee in the district, including the folks setting up there at the front. So it's a unique, we're all in it together. So we all either have good benefits or we all have cruddy benefits. And I must be honest with you, this district has really good benefits. And I was less impressed until I had my own health issue this last fall. And I just don't know what you do if you don't have health insurance, because literally if I hadn't had health insurance, I would have died. It was just not a fun experience. It's one of life's little adventures to have your cancer card punched. I would have preferred Disneyland, but okay. But it was seamless, it was effective, we have the preventive, all of that stuff. And so I'm now a convert. If you're up for your colonoscopy, I highly recommend you get one. So sorry, I got a little sidetracked. So the part-time healthcare became mightily important. So the background is basically we are chartered in the master benefits agreement within everybody's contract. All of the units have one. In our particular contract, our CBA for the AFT, it's Article 27. They can confirm it or not. I know it's Article 10 in one of the units. It's an appendix in one of the units. And hopefully at some point it will be posted on our website, available to everybody as a link so that people can find it and search it. So that's a charter, and there's a couple of things that we're tasked with doing in that master benefit. It gives you the management, who votes on it, the labor caucus, who's there as a resource, and you can go through all of that. And we basically have the responsibility for review and look at and evaluate different options to make sure that we are staying competitive, that we are staying honestly at the top of the mix. And we make those recommendations to the board for approval. We don't approve them, we just approve them as a recommendation, and hopefully we can convince the board to say yes. In that charter, there are two things that I am required to do as the chair, and that is this, and that is to report out the changes for each year, and then an annual review. The annual review of what JLMBC does, it's attached as a document. You can look at it. If you have any questions, we'll do it. It's just kind of this is what the committee had been doing. So I am the chair. Has not been updated. Sorry about that. I didn't catch that. The administrative representative currently is not Dr. Dorado. So sorry about that. Well, now we can blame you. It's all his fault. Dr. James McKeever, the AFT president, is on that. He does have a proxy that attends and maintains, Dr. Jessica St. Paul. The staff guild, did we get those right on there? I'll let you guys tell me if I got them all wrong. SEIU 99, James Bradley has been there from my tenure. Bruce Hicks, I do know is correct. Chad, I don't believe he's here today, from the building trades. I've actually known him for quite some time in the CMU area. I run the construction part of trade, so we know each other. And Dr. Deborah Harrington has been the Teamster rep. I know she's having her own issues at the moment, and so hasn't participated in a little while. Basically, here's what I have to report, and it was the medical renewals are the major ones. And then we'll briefly speak about the dental renewal, vision, and then we have some the voluntary life, and then basically just a recap of what JLMBC did in 2023. The big one is this, so that most people have never quite understood. We went to CalPERS as a group years ago, or I believe it was 2008, the discussion was started. And we went from 5 in-house plans paid for in the open market by the LACCD at a time of 14 to 15, 16% annual increases in premium benefits with reductions in coverage. And it just kept getting really expensive. So as a group, despite whether we like to admit it or not, we're all on the same boat. So we all either float or don't. And so we all came together and we went to CalPERS. It was a drastic change from what we had in the past. It was different, and that makes people nervous. We went there, it changed effective 2010, and we went to CalPERS. Now, this many years later, it created another oddball situation when part-time healthcare came up. We discovered maybe we hadn't done everything correctly back when. And then we also discovered that there's a government code and rules that apply to CalPERS that don't apply to other colleges. And that's where we get the uniqueness of how we had to do things. And this is the first year in at least 12 that I looked back at that we've had double-digit increases in health premiums. So it happened during the negotiations process, and I will say this, management was supportive. I mean, we're coming out of COVID. I'm glad they were. And there was no fight over the increases. In other words, there was no real talk about trying to extract something. And so we understood that as part of the salary negotiations. It's a salary and benefits package. This is a very rich package, and we were able to maintain the entire package. None of the plans changed, none of the coverages changed, and there's no premium increases to any of our members. And that is a good thing. But just keep that in mind when we talk about our pay raise. That was at 13%, and that's not a true increase. That 13% is actually an average of all of the plans. For us, we're almost 50-50 split between Anthem PPOs and the Kaiser HMO. Not exactly, but really close. So, and one of them didn't go up as much, 6-7%. The other one up about 19. It averages out. That's where the 13 comes from. And CalPERS they buy down the rates. So they are what LACCD used to be, where you paid that yourself and you were your own kind of broker. That's what they do. Anthem PPOs and all that stuff in the state, for us, it's not insurance. They're self-insured. It's CalPERS that pays it. So when we have members that want to file an insurance commissioner, we can't. It's not insurance. So it's a very complex set of systems. And then it all got kind of thrown up in the wind when they passed the healthcare, part-time healthcare and reimbursement. And in the end, it has actually been a benefit to the district. They are recovering more funds from the state than they ever have. Our part-time healthcare cost the district close to $3 million. It would have been about 2.4 the last time I looked. And we got $36,000 funding back from the state. So it was being covered by the district. That's not the case anymore. We are currently getting 100% of all those costs back. So that was what JLMBC worked on and what the staff worked on. And they did, I will give Vice Chancellor Tiana Williams a kudos for getting the changes needed to CalPERS through you guys, getting them approved, and to CalPERS in a record amount of time. It was done very quickly, and it's nothing we could have foreseen. We had to change it on the fly. And when we went from that, we have actually now been able to launch the part-time healthcare. There's a web portal that it launches. The links went out about a week ago, a little later than we would have liked, but as quickly as it was physically possible to do. So hopefully our adjuncts are now being able to apply and get access to their coverages. Honestly, last weekend I worked with one of the classified staff members, maybe give her some overtime, but we worked on the weekend to fix the final, because we launched it and then of course people look at it and you get some feedback, and we were able to go in over the weekend and make some really simple changes that made it much better for folks to be able to find. And like I said, it's primarily for our adjuncts. So anyway, those are the dollar amounts. And when you look at them, that's a lot of money. It is. And it is 13.1%. If we scroll to the next one. Okay, now our dental ones, we have 2 dental plans in our district, and that's the Delta Dental, and it's not insurance. We are, the LACCD self-insures all the dental. And it basically didn't even go up as much as inflation. So if you include inflation in there, it actually went down. And that's actually after we had increased the benefit for pinhole surgery, gum recession surgery, and porcelain crowns throughout, and 100% coverage on your preventative, which was all new. And even after all that, it only went up 2%. So that was a good deal. Vision. Oh, the other one is a medical. It is insurance. It actually originated. It's done by MetLife, I believe, is our carrier. And it's a legacy from the late 60s. And there are things in it we would love to change, but we can't, because if we try to open it to change anything, it will go away. Because that thing has to go all the way through the state process, through the Insurance Commission for reapproval. And there's several things in it that are really a great benefit for our members, and they will go away if we open it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. It's a status quo, and any of the real changes would come to Delta Dental. If you hear from those folks. Next screen is this is just an overview of where the expenses are actually going on the dental. We're going to have some conversations at some point for our adjuncts now. For no matter what, but basically this hasn't changed in a while. And that's just the coverage you get. It's you work your way up in a career increment basically to the maximum of a $3,000 dental benefit. Adjuncts never get to do that. So we'll be talking about that probably in the next year. And you can see what the average cost is, what the activity has been. It's being fairly well utilized. We are not spending the liability of what the district is liable for. We are not spending all that money. So it's not, we're not bankrupting the benefit. Vision's the next one, I think. This is VSP. Anybody got new glasses recently? The VSP benefit, if you go and get them, when they look at your benefit, they usually look at you and go, huh. Because it is an amazingly good benefit. Our consultant team helped us negotiate a really good update to, the computer glasses, the anti-blue is all covered, your scratch coats are everything is covered. A massive improvement, and it didn't go up. It didn't change anything. So it was just a matter of nobody bothered to look at it for a lot of years. And when we went back to the open market, they were competitive and they brought us back some good rates. So your money well spent on our consultant and the group. So thank you for that. I think what's next? This is our basic life. We toyed with the idea of changing it. We can't. It's an IRS rule, so we're done. I mean, this is what it is. It's a competitive rate. It hasn't changed. This is the basic data behind the coverages for voluntary, which we allow our members can access it as a payroll deduction. And it's just they can go up to that amount. There's no pre-existing conditions. They don't have to go through underwriting. No cost to the district on the voluntary benefits. And if you want to show, this is just a summary of basically what happened last year: options, pricing, computers, campuses, voluntary benefit. We are continuing to look at voluntary benefits. We'll be coming back soon, probably with a recommendation on things like AFLAC, that kind of top. We're trying to figure out how to sort out what happened from back in the 60s that we're still living with. We got the approval dental and vision improvements. And probably one of the other ones we're working on is an advocacy type of help for all of our members, all of the employees, in that CalPERS, because they're the way they are, they're not very free on the market with their information. So when our members call them, they don't give a lot. And so, and we can't really ask them. So we kind of stuck. So we're looking at maybe having a slight ad when we go out for our consultant again to add a little bit more service where our members can get kind of an advocate to help them walk through the craziness that is CalPERS. Next. We'll go through this really quick. The newsletters are very common. We send them out twice a year. They're very comprehensive. And we save them all. We have them on the website. Now, I'll be honest, in the new migration of the website, I don't know where they went. and I haven't been able to find them yet, but we will eventually find them again and put them back so people can find the older archives. They generally have step-by-step directions for all of our members and all of our different processes, and then other stuff. And I believe it says we're finishing, Tuesday, we finished the spring newsletter, and they are being sent for print and should be going out very shortly. Next. I think I've covered most of that. So any specific questions?
Colleagues, any questions? Then we'll start down at the end with Trustee Hoffman, and I'll just come back through. Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Ellerton. That was a really good, thorough presentation. A few years ago, we had a problem with the retiree health benefits. Has that all been fixed and smoothed over, or do we still have issues?
Mostly.
Pardon me?
Mostly. There was a, just for everybody, if you, just to bring up, I'm a teacher moment, I can't help it. We had 100% coverage for our employees and lifetime benefit of that 100% coverage for our employee and their spouse. That was the agreement that we had for decades and decades and decades. And in fact, we still have. When we went to CalPERS, that changed because there was no 100% coverage. It was at the time 80%, 20% for the PPOs. And the corrective factor that we did was the HRA. And that's where the HRA came from. It was to cover the deductibles. And we still have it. So, and so we're close to there. But something happened in when we went to CalPERS and then in 2014, there was a change in IRS rules. And we didn't have to be, Medicare got kind of forced on us. And CalPERS buys Medicare for you. It's a supplement plan. And so we ended up having to go into Medicare. And then what was happening was we weren't covering Medicare. And with the help of Trustee Hoffman, we got that corrected. We did miss one little thing, and that was the Medicare Part D, because for the 34 years ahead of 24, I've been here quite a while, but the Part D, we always tell everybody, you don't need to buy Part D. And in the truest sense, that's true. But in 2014, CalPERS changed the game, and they buy it for us now. So what happens now is if you happen to be a person on that they bought the Part D, you can end up with a small payment that you must make for the going over their earning limits. It was about $40,000, and I could not get the chancellor to agree to fund it, but we'll talk about that next time. So it's still out of the mix, but we maintained all of the Part B. So the Medicare Part B is working. The reimbursements, so those that are retired can get them and their spouses reimbursed. So we have truly got back to what the agreement was, 100% coverage. Now, one more kick, Chancellor. And that is the IT is our problem. We're not getting the data out of IT to our vendor, which is ASI Flex, and we're not updating them. And so we have members from all over the campuses. Last year it worked fine. This year it doesn't work. And it's very frustrating for them. It's frustrating for our vendor. They just need the list. It's a spreadsheet. And for whatever reason, we're just having difficulty getting that. And somehow we'll try to work on it. And now that we have more staff and some more people coming in, we'll try to figure out how to automate some of this stuff. It's kind of weird sometimes that, our open portal for open enrollment goes to a spreadsheet that somebody manually goes through and fixes. And then that spreadsheet is sent to CalPERS. Now, I'm not saying it's all our fault, because CalPERS is operating off a computer system from way back when. So it's kind of what they have to get. But it just, we're still doing our part-time healthcare. If you look at it, you type in it, you get to the link, it still opens up a PDF that you fill out and email in. It really should be a web form. And as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to fight for and hope to support management to try to move into so that it's simple. It's like there's a date that you filled it out, whose desk it's on, it can be tracked. So because right now, once you're filled it out and emailed it, it's not as clean, better, but not as good as it could be.
Thank you.
See if you ask any more questions.
No questions.
Trustee Barris?
Just one question. Part of, part of one of the challenges and benefits and challenges with the JLMBC process is that oftentimes it becomes insular, meaning that it stays focused internally in our spaces as opposed to much of the contract negotiations we have. We get a chance to sort of see and compare with the region and where people are in terms of their employment and their wages and their, you know, with other districts and other spaces. In your approach here, and I think we've had sort of rough evaluations of what our employee benefits package looks like, but is there potentially an easier way to sort of assess the strength of the benefits package as compared to other districts throughout the state?
Well, we attempted that this time during negotiations, so I put my negotiator hat on. It's completely pulled out our medical benefits and only compared salary to salary, because that's the only consistent data that we can get from the other colleges. And it is so across the board, and it's very difficult to compare our pomegranate to their lemon. It's just really hard. And so we just took it out of the mix and looked at salary, and that was our discussion over the salary increases, because we were way down in the middle and we've been there for decades. Sure. And we finally made some progress. Medically speaking, I have to tell you, with the part-time healthcare, we look statewide all over the map. And the hardest problem is HIPAA and trying to get data. CalPERS won't release any of that data. We do our best because Kaiser does collect that data, and Kaiser will give us the data and compare us to their market, so that whoever else has Kaiser, we can get a sense of where it's going. Who has Anthem? We can't get anything out of CalPERS, and Anthem is very closed-lip on their information, so it's difficult. We're actually working on trying to figure out a way with our consultant to actually do some surveying the next time around to see, because we're getting closer every year to being better at making that decision. And we started looking at other options. There's, we don't have a opt-out, and a lot of places do. We don't have one. So if you're a married couple and you both work in the district, you're both covered. But if you weren't married, you would both get the full coverage, and yet you're going to get one, and we make no incentive whatsoever. We'll probably bring that, around again. But it's a discussion item, and it's not any one of us, it's the whole team that would bring it forward. But it's something that is being discussed because we're looking at it. There's thoughts of dealing with the out-of-pocket expenses. There's a difference between the HMOs and the PPOs. And we'll be trying to look at maybe there's different ways of addressing that out-of-pocket. So it'll be a conversation and ongoing, which is the task of what JLMC was tasked to do.
No, thank you. And thank you for mentioning the opt-out. It's something I've raised over the years, just because I'm a public sector employee as well, and we have opt-outs. And both my spouse and I are public sector employees. So it makes sense in some ways to utilize that because the double coverage scenarios. But ultimately, I think I raised the question in two different ways. One, I think as we go about the process of understanding what it's like to work here, I think the JLMVC is one of the entities that's really sought to improve workplace conditions and workplace benefits more than almost anything out there, because it's done in a way with management, with employees, and it's kind of this general sense of let's do the best we can to take care of people. But in a lot of ways, that's potentially a recruitment tool to come here and be here. I know we have a number of vacancies that are being recruited. We should get the best and the most eager and the most energized to be at this place because it's a great job.
in terms of the benefits conversation. But to ensure that it's not only a great job with benefits in the conversation, to understand costs and comparables, it becomes a critical to be able to negotiate all the salaries and all the other packages in the best possible ways. Sometimes to understand the levers and the balances between benefits and salaries and other workplace conditions is valuable. It's an important tool that sometimes district doesn't necessarily utilize, because we have this as a very cooperative effort. It's in its name, cooperative, but we don't fully take advantage of it also as a recruiting tool. I mean, I think if I was to say we have amongst the best benefits in the entire state of California for community colleges, I don't think I'd be that far off. And I think there'd probably be a lot of people at this table that would agree with me there. But sometimes we don't put it out there as a tool to bring and encourage people to apply to be part of this district. So I think to understand that, cleaner, better, I think could be used as to our benefit and our service in terms of building out our workforce and making sure the vacancies we have there can be covered, and there's good competition and people can feel that the district is doing something good for them.
You're not going to get an argument from me. And we are doing our best to try to base everything that we recommend and not, I mean, yeah, occasionally it'll cost a little bit. But we really try to do the cost, and benefit outlook on it. And I will tell you this, that your one employee has been in contact with JLMBC, and we are seriously trying to figure out how to best identify the full salary benefit package as a recruitment tool, because it is there. It's also your opt-out is something that has to be included, because if we're going to call it a salary and benefit and your spouse doesn't get that benefit and there's no opt-out, it's not quite the same. And now it's not an apples to apples. So we have to look at all of those different things. So, but it is on the table and it's being discussed, but we're like everybody else, it takes a while. But I do believe, just out of examples, the group that's on it and the group that comes every month, and I think we've been doing pat my own back, but we've been doing I think a really good job doing it, and we've had the support of the board and the support of management. So far, so good. No more questions?
Thank you.
Sorry for taking so long.
Maybe Hernandez,
No questions.
Trustee Vaughn.
Next slide.
No, item.
Oh, okay.
We got it. Thank you, Mr. L. Great presentation. Thank you. Okay, next up, colleagues, can I have a motion and a second for the JLMBC medical and dental renewal rates as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by VP Eno
I'll second.
and second made by Trustee Hoffman. Any discussion, colleagues? Okay, Madam Secretary, can we have the roll call, please?
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote?
Yes.
Trustee Boulna?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson?
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez?
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman?
Yes.
Trustee Eno?
Yes.
Trustee Vella?
Yes.
Trustee Vettis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. There was one informative on the JLMBC self-evaluation.
If you have any questions about it, it's a summary I'm required to post on the web. It's what the committee, basically a summary of what the committee did. The topics we talked about and the action. So
Okay.
presented primarily was interested in one of them. If you have any specific questions, more than happy to go back to
Colleague?
Good.
Okay. No need. Thank you for that. Okay, joining us next is Vice Chancellor Dr. Ruben Smith to provide an update on the PMO recompete.
Thank you, President Henderson. This is a brief presentation. It's an opportunity to share with you our Program Management Officer recompete contract. Currently, this is the Jacobs contract. We are recompeting right now. That contract expires in September 15th of this year.
in early January, we actually withdrew the RFP and we rejected all bids. One of the reasons that we did that was, for one, we wanted to ensure that the goals of the RFP were better aligned with Measure LA as well as the board goals. And then we also wanted to make sure that looking at the addenda that we received through that process, we made some changes to hopefully increase participation. We are now proposing to post a new RFP, and these dates are as follows. With the new RFP, we can issue it February 26th, which is about, next Monday, not this Monday, but the following Monday, with submissions due in April, and a projected possible recommendation for award in June of 2024. The reason why this timelines we're recommending is because we do have the challenge of a contract expiring. And one of the challenges that we have is negotiating a contract during that time with a expiration date. So we would not be bargaining from a position of strength, knowing that we have a contract expiration upon us. So that would create some challenges for us, possibly pushing projects in a moratorium if we don't have a PMO, program management office contract in place. And that, I'll open it up for questions at this point.
Colleagues, we'll start down with student trustee Cordova. Any questions?
No, not this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ballmer?
No.
Trustee Hernandez?
No.
I have none. Trustee Barron?
Yeah, I have a couple, just for the sake of asking questions, I guess. Obviously, on the in-bill program, the PMO is probably the most significant support entity we have. And just for the record, and I know this is sort of a brief presentation, but can you go through the process of why it was canceled? Was there a particular reason? And in the sort of presentation of the new timeline, what do you expect to be the main differences in the procurement process then to the procurement processes in front of you or in front of us?
Okay, so without giving away exactly what's in the RFP, we made significant changes to the scope. So some of those changes are with regard to what's going to be delivered in the program management plan. That's going to be required as a deliverable. And there's also an opportunity, I believe, for better participation. The second thing that I think that is really critical is when we have a mandatory pre-bid meeting, I believe that at that pre-bid meeting, we need to have an opportunity for people to ask questions. I don't think we gave that opportunity the last time, so it did create some confusion, and because it was very different, that RFP was very different than the one we launched 6 years ago. So we made some clarification there as well.
Okay. And I think you alluded a little bit to this in your presentation, but so I'll ask this, it's kind of a two-part question. One, I think we've all been guided by the Ed Code in terms of this length of contract scenario. I think last year we did an extension based on the fact that, well, coming out of COVID,
yes,
doing some significant reorganization, I think we had some findings to say for the sake of practicability that we would do an extension and do the competition at the campus program level. But now we're within sort of this sort of Ed Code. Are we, does the legal piece have any part of the procurement process? And I say that only because I want to sort of hear what are potentially some of the challenges in front of us with one having ended and then starting up right away, hearing some of the changes and some of those reasons. I think every time we go through a competitive process, it's a pretty enormous effort, I would
Absolutely.
say. And there's lots of sort of nervousness all the way around. And I think in the past, every time we've gone through one of these processes, we've tended to change the PMO process. Not saying not to predict anything here in the future, but it's just sort of the nature of what it's been for the last 3 procurements I've seen, that each time actually has a new PMO at the end of the result. But But I really want to be, sort of careful and keen to understand the potential impacts and if there are any potential disruptions by just how you lay out and how do you intend to manage those? Because I'll say this on the table. I think last year choosing to extend PMO and do the CM competition seemed to have resulted into a very clean process, a very consistent process with very little sort of concerns or issues that were raised or disruption. And so I think that was great to hear and see. And ideally, we'd like to have sort of that same consistency moving forward. I think from the standpoint of how much construction we have coming, we're probably going to hit a very high point, higher than we've been in probably the last 8 years in the upcoming couple of years. And so I just want to be sure that we're smooth transition, whatever happens, that it's the least amount of disruption possible.
Excellent points, and you bring up a good question. So let me unpack a lot of what was said there. First and foremost, the one thing we've done is we've sought legal counsel throughout the entire procurement process. So we have our internal general counsel participating in every single meeting, as well as 2 different firms from outside counsel to guide us through this process. They were also included in the before my decision to recommend withdrawing the RFP. We did run through scenarios with that. What will it mean? What would it, what's the potential impact of this? And then we did consult with counsel on that decision, and there was support to move forward. Speaking about the disruption and potential disruption, as well as what we think is projected construction peak. And so that's one of the things that you brought up is about that construction peak. We're looking at the peak period coming in a couple of years, and this contract will be right in the middle of that. So that was very strategic on our part to really consider going from $400 to $500 million a year to potentially $700 million a year, which is something we've never done as a district in the last 20 years at all in our bond program. So we want to get to a point that we've never gotten to before. And we want to be mindful of the disruption and what it means, not just potential of a moratorium, but what that disruption looks like on campus. What do teaching environments and learning environments look like? How do you access the campus? What are the arteries getting to and from the campus? Can we ensure that we're providing walkways, pathways that are accessible? Can people find where they're going if they're new to the campus or aspiring students? So we did consider that with this, and we projected out a timeline based on where we see the construction going, based on the planning efforts that we've done, what's in design and what's in construction. And then we also have some of those legacy challenges that we considered. And so with that, the glaring challenge was delaying with a contract that we have. We're ready. We actually have the document ready to go. We did pull it off. We're ready. We put it back swiftly. We went through that process, and we see no reason to wait in putting it back on the street. However, I must caution that we do have a contract that expires this year. And so with what I'm proposing, there's still that June 12th. I think that we'll hit that date with no problem, but that leaves us 3 months for a transition with negotiation and transition before the current PMO contract expires. So that is definitely a risk that we would have. But we think that there's a possibility that we could achieve that with the time allotted and the timeline that we've provided. And we have the support of the district procurement team that feels that this is achievable.
Thank you. No other questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Trustee Bell?
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Smith.
Hello.
How many firms applied for the PMO recompete?
Council, can I answer that question?
Dr. Smith, maybe at this time, refrain.
So I can't know how many firms applied? General Counsel?
We can review an OGC and then provide a response at a later time.
Okay, thank you. Did the current incumbent apply?
Can I answer that question, council? Okay.
Yeah, trustee Bella, same with that. We'll
Okay.
review with acting.
Okay, thank you so much. And, you know, just for the record, I, you know, would really appreciate some of the follow-up, especially because a program of this magnitude, you know, and I think it's no surprise that the board would really like to see diversity of people, in particular, firms that represent the Los Angeles area, since we do have a SLED program that, you know, we incentivize firms that are located within Los Angeles County. So I do hope when you go out again with the RFP that, you know, we do put out notices that are adequate, that are timely about the recompete, because I do believe that I'm feel a little blind right now, in particular because I'm not really sure of what is happening, and I don't feel comfortable voting to go back out for an RFP, or not voting, but I want to say for the record that I have been given zero information, and I'm, you know, relying on you, Dr. Smith. This is your decision, not the board, to go back out for RFP. So I really want to make that clear to the public, because we have not been told anything about the RFP. Who applied, who didn't. Find it a little strange. I've served in boards before. This has never happened, but I'm, you know, hopefully taking the advice of general counsel. So I just want to put that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chancellor, you have something before-
Just a quick response, Mr. Villa. Thank you. Your concerns are noted and we will review it and put the response in writing one way or another. A part of our, and I was in the consultation with General Counsel and Dr. Smith on this matter, is that the board is at the end of the decision-making chain. So we want to ensure that there isn't any real or appearance of impropriety on with any aspect of this, a very visible procurement. So that's why I wanted to provide an explanation. We want to make sure that everything is done cleanly, appropriately, that we guard ourselves against any kind of potential bid protest, and to do all the safeguards so that it's a clean, transparent, open, inclusive, and open process when we get to it. So that's, I hope that helps.
I appreciate that. And that's even more why I brought this topic up, because I want to make sure the public knows that we are not aware. Number one. Number two, you know, as the new chair of facilities, I asked for this to come up, for Dr. Smith to come up, to let the public know at least some of what we can say. Because I believe that, you know, this has to be completely transparent to the public, even if the board is, you know, kept with the blindfold, which again, this is what I am being, you know, advised by my general counsel. So I want to respect that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Hoffman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Smith. That was a great presentation. And I've been on the board for nearly 9 years now, so I've been through this, I think, a couple times. I do have a question about the process in terms of, you just said there's going to be like 3 months to transition.
Yes.
You know, when and if a new PMO comes in.
Yes.
What happens to the teams that are currently on the campuses and the projects that they're working on? Does all that get retransitioned? I know in the past it has, but then we changed the model.
Yes.
And so how do we ensure consistency with our projects that are happening currently? And that it takes time for our college presidents and staff to build those relationships. And so how do we factor all of that in? If you could just talk briefly about that, just for my benefit and the rest of the board.
Thank you for that question, Trustee Hoffman, and I'm glad you asked it. We don't see an impact at all with the work that's going on with the college as we go through this process, even during the transition, because what we did was we went with an agency CM hybrid model. And so we have college project teams that are managing the work on site. Although this is a centralized process,
We believe that in this process, we still believe that bills can get paid and we can make that transition with projects ongoing as we're approving invoices, as well as approving contracts, moving things forward through public board action. We don't see that being an issue because they're separate teams. So you have 9 different teams at those colleges. However, I will have to say that there is some support that comes from the PMO staff across the entire district with regard to services that we see as a benefit where we're receiving economies of scale by having estimators that actually work out of the PMO office, for example, that support all the colleges. Those are on bench contracts. And so you have task orders for those bench contracts. So that's another layer that's actually different from the PMO staff themselves. So you have the total oversight, that contract is what's being rebid. And then we have 2 other layers of contracts with industry, construction management folks that are doing the work, as well as the A&E staff that are doing the work. So you do have multiple layers, and then we try to offset each one of those expirations of those contracts so we don't have this magic perfect storm if there was an issue to happen.
And those teams stay intact until the project is complete, or
So, well, those teams are on a different contract, and then they have renewal opportunities as well, but they don't go through this recompete process the same way. So it's a different type of contract.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Anyone else? Any other comments? Thank you for that
Thank you.
information. Thank you so much, Chancellor. Colleagues, any questions, comments regarding the totality of the report? Anything that has come up? All right. So we'll move on to item H, which is our combined consent calendar. We have our combined consent calendar for items I1 through T10. These items include consent calendars for human resources, academic affairs, student services, budget and finance, business and facilities. May I have a motion and a second to adopt the combined consent calendar for items I1 through T10 with the exclusion of item K2.
So moved.
Moved by VP Eno and is that Hernandez?
Yes.
And second by VP Hernandez. Any discussion, colleagues?
Yes, President, I have a question on 2 items.
Okay.
Item O18 and item P6.
O18 and you said
P6, I can ask them now, or if you want to take the vote, I can ask them separately.
Is it just for information or?
It's information. I think I could vote yes. So if you want to just take the questions, I could probably.
Okay. So maybe we'll just go down, and if that's the case, or how should we do it?
You can go down, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Colleagues? Nothing? Okay. Trustee Barris?
Okay, so on item O18, it's so a couple things. One, obviously, mental health is critical and important across the district. I just wanted to sort of understand a little bit more about this event, and I just had one clarification about the Novo Theater, and I actually had to look it up because I forgot what Novo was. That's the old Microsoft, or whatever it's called now. It's Novo now. But can we explain what this event is? And I assume with the ticket purchase, we're buying the whole venue out to do this event, and how are we? Is it one campus, all campuses, one student, all student? And I just want to have a clarification because I know as I was trying to figure out where Nova was, realizing it was Microsoft, I did know that their general seating was only 2,300, but we're listing 3,000 tickets here. So I just wanted to be clear with that discrepancy, and if there was, if that needs to be adjusted, if we can consider adjusting it. So I don't want to have the public view our event having 3,000 tickets, yet only 2,300 capacity at the venue.
Yes, let me begin to respond. And thank you, Mr. Vettis, for your questions. This is our second year that we collaborate with Rambo House Media to promote mental health. Last year, it was at the theater right next door to SoFi, the YouTube Center. So it was a very a wonderful venue in which we had, I think, about 1,500, 2,000 students participate. This is a partnership with this group, and there are other agencies that are also working together with this media person to put together a concert that brings in a lot of notables from Los Angeles to put on a free concert, if you will. But in our particular case, we're at no cost to the students, that's what I mean by free. So this cost of 50,000 helps to defer some of the costs associated with putting on this really first-rate entertainment that has as its focus mental health with community colleges and students has this particular emphasis. So it is tickets. That's how was one way to make this contribution. It is district-wide. We believe that this particular location, a little more centered to the campus, will I think attract a broader range of students to that. We will look at the capacity and the 3,000 number to make sure that that is indeed done. So we're in fact making this concert that's focusing on mental health available to all LACCD students. But it is our second time. Last year we used some dollars that we received from the state to promote mental health. This year we have some of that, as well as the contributions and support from our colleges to help to do that. This is coming out of our this, as you see, that the Mental Health Services Support Fund. So that's a little bit about the context. It is I can't see the full list, but I think a date has been set already for this, and it's top flight entertainment for that particular college age group, if you will, for students. So that's a little bit about that. I'm happy to respond to any more questions.
I could add a little more. So when we had the concert the last time at U2 Center, there was seating, actual seating, but students could opt to stand. So that's accommodating the difference. So students could opt to stand through the entire event closer to the stage, or they could sit. And also what we did, it was offered to every student in the district based off certain criteria, because this was a mental health concert. We're addressing students' needs, students that have expressed a need, been serviced for a particular need. They're housing insecure. They've experienced some sort of mental distress through COVID, food insecure, what have you, and those that are graduating. So each student was given a ticket, and they were 2 tickets, and they were allowed to bring a friend.
Okay.
So, so that we could open it up to other schools. So we had students from El Camino attending. We had Compton College, we had Cerritos, Santa Monica, because these were the guests. So each ticket is in 2s.
Okay, so just to be clear and thank you for that. So one, it's offered to all LACCD students that meet a certain criteria that we have deemed as potentially, I don't know, what's the right way to say it? Is it
Equitable?
Or close to graduation.
Yes. It was intended for graduation.
Okay.
To kind of coincide with, our APITA, Lavender, Black,
Okay.
all of our graduations, but students specifically that were dealing with some issue that impacted their mental health.
Okay. And that's obviously coming from the Mental Health Support Services Fund. Obviously want to
From
make sure
mental
there's
health, we
there's a
went
clear
through
connection.
our Moja,
Okay.
our Puente program, all of our, our basic needs, all of those, and those groups of students were contacted.
Okay.
And so there was a series of, I guess, a process where they were notified and they let us know their interest. And then, if they were interested in participating, and then there were some other steps that they followed to get their actual tickets.
So then perhaps we can note for the record, because like I said, if you go look up Novo's venue, they're saying their general capacity is 2,300 was what I noted here. But if we can note, if Trustee Henderson is saying there's a standing room only space, then potentially that 3,000 is in that space. But if we can just note for the public, because I would hate to have somebody else come up and say, hey, you're overbuying a space beyond the capacity. But if that's the way it's been handled, it seems appropriate. And I'm prepared to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's that item. And then a quick question on item P6. And actually, no.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
Do we know who's performing at the concert yet?
P7, yes, sorry.
Do we,
Um,
just wondering.
I think I can say, the idea is to have, I'm not sure if I can say, because, well, so we call it a pull-up concert because we're, artists can just come up and perform. And so we're, working to have a major artist. And, it's not confirmed yet, so I don't want to say. But it'll be well worth our investment for our students. If only.
Okay, thank you. So my other question was on P7 and I apologize, I said P6 initially. but it's
P7, not
P7.
P6.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I actually wanted to sort of acknowledge and extend appreciation for Ms. Benjamin here in the recent board retreat. But this is actually more of a comment based on the not to exceed of 15,000, because I know a few years back I asked a similar question on a prior consultant that was substantially more than this 15,000. So I wanted to sort of understand the difference between that consultant and this consultant. How do we sort of come up with the contract numbers? Is it, I don't think it's qualification issues. I think it's, but I just wanted to understand how we can, we had a little bit of debate of a 6-month contract and I don't remember off the top of my head exactly the numbers then, but I know this one is 15 for the year and we certainly had services here, but maybe Chancellor, if this is something you can explain to, how do we get to this? And how do we have such a potentially a discrepancy of like the way we are doing this now as opposed to the way we've done it in the past?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bettis. Let me take this piece by piece. The current facilitator for the board's goals of 2024 is the same person, Dr. Helen Benjamin, who performed this service at the same rate for 2023. It turns out that while the board authorized $15,000 as a total sum last year, the board for this service of 2 retreats and putting together the document, the evaluation tool, reporting on that to the board and its goals, as we did a couple of weeks ago, that total cost was about $7,300 total for Dr. Benjamin's. It's a flat fee. It's not hourly. It's not billed hourly necessarily, but it's billed on the scope of work and the services provided. So Dr. Helen Benjamin, we spent about $7,300 last year. And with the board's action, potential action on P7, we will do the same this year. And that work has already begun. We have a draft of the board's 2024 goals are in place, and I'll be sharing that with the board president shortly this week, and the board will consider that at its March meeting for potential adoption. Related to the previous consultant, if it's Dr. Narcissa Polonio, who you are referring to, she worked with the board for a couple of years. In addition to assisting the board with its goals, she also had additional duties to work with the board to provide some coaching to the board president, additional supports to other members of the board, and other kinds of responsibilities that extended beyond just the completion, facilitation of the board's annual goals. In that particular circumstance, and I'm talking about the 2022 calendar year, the board authorized $70,000 and it paid out just under $54,000 for the year. So it's not necessarily apples to apples, although the principal responsibility was to assist the board with its annual goals. But in the case of Dr. Polonio, she had some additional duties that were outlined in the contract, and she did bill hourly.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. And I think, I raised the question because one, I want to be fair and consistent with the treatment of consultants as well. Obviously we have 2 women consultants. The clarification is valuable, but what triggers the difference between $7,300 and what did you say, $53,000?
Yes.
What triggers that kind of discussion? Is it a board president conversation? Is it a you determination or
No,
or what goes? And even on the out front here, I mean, to sit there and talk about 15,000 not to exceed And to have, and I remember the other one because I raised the question, it was originally 70,000 for 6 months, and then it was somehow or another modified. But to understand the difference between a consultant doing 15 versus, or not to exceed 15, not to exceed 70, and then ultimately, you know, there's a gap in the way we're processing here, or I'm understanding how it's being processed. I'm more used to somewhere along the lines of what I'm seeing with the Dr. Benjamin contract here. And I guess thank you to the current board president in the past. This seems to be consistent, but whatever happened in that 22 year, 21 year, 22 year, seems to be substantially larger than the normal practice of the sport.
Well,
And how do we, I guess, in terms of the future,
yeah,
what are the kinds of parameters to be aware of and to know when these things come forward?
in general, when meeting with the board president, whomever is elected, when we talk about these services, like I have obviously a menu of individuals who perform this kind of service, make recommendations, but ultimately the board president decides on behalf of the board who is ultimately contracted. And that's what occurred with Dr. Polonio, and that's what occurred with Dr. Benjamin. In the case of Polonio, it was an interest of the board president at the time to expand responsibilities of that individual, to provide coaching and provide other supports to individual board members, to hold additional meetings with subgroups of the board for a variety of purposes. And those were billed at an hourly rate that was substantial. So that's why it added up. So the scope of the annual goals was done, performed, and it was done on an on an hourly basis. So it added up. But there were additional responsibilities for Dr. Polonio, and that was at the board president's direction.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are you okay with,
No, I think compared to the past consultant, Dr. Benjamin's of tremendous value for this district. So
so you're good with the
yes.
responses? Okay. So, board members, we have a motion made by VP Eno and a second made by VP Hernandez. Is there any further discussion? So are you okay with us including O and P? Okay, so, and this is a vote to adopt the combined consent calendars, items I1 through T10, including O18 and P7.
Excluding K2.
And excluding K2. So, Madam Board Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see. Now we have item. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to adopt business items U1 through U10 and U15 through U16 as U11 through 14 have been pulled. It's 15 and 16. U1 through 10, and then 15 and 16. Those are the ones that we will be including. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by VP Eno. I'll second Henderson. Any discussion on these items? All righty then. Madam Board Secretary, can we have roll call, please?
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you. And now may I have a motion and a second to adopt facilities items V1 through V12?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by trustee Vella, second by
Kelsey.
VP Eno. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Board Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you. And now may I have a motion and a second on human resources item W1. This is to authorize a compromise of claim at the ESC. Motion,
So moved.
thank you. Motion made by
Second.
VP Eno, second by VP Hernandez.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Madam Board Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you. Now for item X1, we will move to recommendations from the Chancellor. Chancellor, would you please provide a brief explanation?
Yes, thank you very much. This is the Title VI plan of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and I've asked the Vice Chancellor Williams to walk us through. This is a mandated report to the board because of us receiving funds, as you will see, from LA Metro for the construction, installation of bus shelters and other passenger and pedestrian enhancements. So indeed, when we receive funding from the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, we must submit these plans in conformance with the Title VI requirements. So there's a brief presentation, and the full report was also attached final submission to this particular agenda, but I'll ask Vice Chancellor Williams just to walk us through the highlights. Vice Chancellor.
Good afternoon. Trustee Henderson, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
Hey. You know, the next slide. So just to give you some background, landmark legislation in this country was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. These are the primary three things it did. It banned discrimination, segregation in schools, accommodations, and prohibited discrimination based on race, color, national origin in federal funds or federal assistance. Where we were at that time, Dr. King referred to this as the second emancipation. And so just to give you an overview of how Title VI fits in the Civil Rights Act, there's essentially 10 titles in the Civil Rights Act. This is Title VI that talks about federal assistance for programs. And just so you can see kind of where it fits in, Title VII is for employment-based discrimination. Title VIII is housing. Title IX is an update to Title VI that dealt with gender. And then we have Section 504, which is discrimination based on disability. And where that was not sufficient, we enacted the ADA in 1990. Okay, so as the Chancellor mentioned, this Title VI plan is required. If you take funds from the FTA through Metro, we're required to have a Title VI plan. The plan is also required to be reviewed and approved by the board and submitted to LA Metro every 3 years. And what this does is document steps that LACCD has taken and will take to ensure Title VI compliance with these funds that we've gotten from Metro. Okay. And this is an example of how we use these funds. So this is a bus shelter at LA Valley College. These funds are used to create these shelters and keep people safe and covered when they are waiting for public transportation. So this is a beautiful one. And we're going to continue to use those funds to create those types of bus shelters and spaces. So here's the highlights of what the Title VI plan does. So the Title VI plan provides information to the community on Title VI obligations and protections. It affirms the commitment to provide opportunities for community input and participation in decision-making on how we use these funds. It also outlines the four-factor LEP analysis that that Title VI and Metro does to identify what languages we need to publish things in our service area. And it has our complaint procedures. Now, note that these complaints are extensions of Title VI, so it would be if someone was complaining about something that happened with a bus operator or around the area of the bus shelters. And for this triennium, we received no complaints in that area for those types of issues. As the person who used to hear those, you get a lot of them in Metro. It's the interactions with the bus. So that is what this plan does. The plan is also available there for your review. It has the data on the left analysis, the 7 languages that are predominantly used in our service area, which mandates how you publish the documents. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Colleagues, I'll start down this time with Trustee Hoffman for questions or discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Williams. No questions. Great presentation, very informative. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Bella.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Barris.
I just for the record, Vice Chancellor, I made this comment to the Chancellor on my way over here. I received a phone call from an individual who had indicated that their granddaughter, who falls under ADA, was refused accommodations in one of our class settings. But so pursued it at a different college, received the accommodation. How do we sort of make sure that everybody's aware of this plan and the need for us to be in compliance, and that we take these kinds of things seriously? The ADA part has obviously been an issue that's been raised in the district through the years, but we certainly have the DPSS services that are there. But how do we, whether it's staff, faculty, service providing, the public at large, to really just understand what it is that we're trying to do? Because sometimes it rings when we have these plans and we present these things and there's a disconnect somewhere. So how do we, one, make sure that it's culture and, generally accepted across the board, and there's no reason why you wiggle out of it or deny it, and that it's something students know, that's something that our staff and faculty know, and it's just essentially the culture of this district that this is the plan and we're following it, and we embrace it fully, and this is the way our institutions run.
Great question. I could give you an entire presentation on the ADA process, because we have the ADA process for students. We have it for faculty and staff as well. The short answer would be that students go to DSPS. They work with their counselors and staff there to establish their disabilities if they receive adequate medical documentation that substantiates those disabilities. Once those disabilities are established at DSPS, then we notify the faculty member to implement those accommodations for that student for that class. And so if there's a breakdown somewhere in there, we usually hear about it. We work together, just like with an employee or a faculty member. There's an interactive process about how you accommodate. And Dr. Alba Lopez and her team are at the forefront of assisting faculty in learning how to accommodate these disabilities and how best we could serve the disabled student to get through the course.
But like we're going through training, for example, on sexual harassment. Is there something equivalent in terms of dealing with the entire Civil Rights Act plan?
There is. I think it's coming up on March 8th. It's conjunction with the Academic Senate, and the faculty will be providing that training live on March 8th, and then it'll go into the Vision Resource Center. And then our staff internally, we also do training with them and we send people out to, they call them ADA boot camps to learn how to best accommodate and discuss these issues with our faculty and staff as well.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may add just one more bullet point. This was actually on our consultation agenda yesterday with our colleagues from the District Academic Senate. And we had a presentation on this, we showed some data and really, I think, expressed a mutual interest in ensuring that we knew what to do in the classroom to provide reasonable accommodations to students who need this so that they can be academically successful. So we're working on some joint strategies to socialize this in such a way that to create greater awareness and greater sense of urgency to provide support. So it's on our radar. Thank you for bringing that up, and we'll follow up on the specific example so we can address that matter.
Thank you, Chancellor. VP,
No, no questions.
VP Hernandez? Trustee Boulna?
Nope.
Student trustee?
Yeah, I just have a question. So I see that you said you're using the funds to install bus shelters and other enhancements. Do you have an idea of out of our 9 campuses, how many of them currently have those? Because I know like at City, we have the Metro road, like it goes down. I've never been down those stairs, but I know they go down there. But then like on our Vermont Street, we just have the regular bus pass, but we don't have anything similar to Valley, which I would love to see because we do have a lot of late night students that take that bus route and it's a very unsafe area.
So I'd have to defer to Dr. Smith on the accounting of how many we have. I know it's not unlimited funding, so they are working diligently, campus by campus, to develop better and enhanced bus shelters. It also includes landscaping too. So there's always a plan for each campus to have these enhancements, but not enough funding for all of them. But we can certainly continue to try.
Student trustee, I'd like us to research that and give you a clear and definite answer. So Dr. Smith, I see him taking notes. So we will research that and get that back and ready to all the board members.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I know that's kind of a
Yeah,
hard question,
absolutely.
but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay, so now colleagues, may I have a motion and a second to approve the LACCD Title VI plan?
So moved.
Moved by Ina,
Second.
VP by Hernandez. Any discussion? Madam Board Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote.
Yes.
Trustee Boulna.
Yes.
Trustee Henderson.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez.
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman.
Yes.
Trustee Eno.
Yes.
Trustee Vella.
Yes.
Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Board Secretary. Board members, there is one informative and no action is required for item Y1, which is a report to the board on a complaint made under Board Policy 6410. Mr. Kim?
Good afternoon, President Hernandez, Board, Chancellor. On November 7th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the Internal Audit Department against trustee Steve number 1. The complainant alleged that the respondent received a loan in the amount of $67,300 from the Coalition for LA College Reform, sponsored by the Los Angeles College Faculty Guild Local 1521. As background, the coalition also supported 4 trustee candidates in total. The complainant alleged that taking a loan from this source was illegal and that the recusal of the respondent from voting on the contract with the AFT or other matters relating to AFT 1521 should have occurred. On or about November 14th, 2023, the complaint was referred for handling under Board Policy 6410. Per BP 6410, complaints referring to the chancellor or individual trustees are handled by the Office of General Counsel. On December 1, 2023, an outside investigator, Seema Select, was assigned to review and assess the complaint. In December 2023, Ms. Select interviewed the complainant, respondent, and respondent's treasurer. Ms. Select also obtained additional documentation, information, and guidance from the California Fair Political Practices Commission, or FPPC. Ms. Select determined that the loan acceptance was not illegal or inappropriate under Board Policy 2710, which is the LACCD's conflict of interest policy. BP 2710 incorporates by reference the Political Reform Act and FPPC regulations. The loan was made to the Respondents Campaign Committee. While the FPPC has jurisdiction over violation of campaign finance law, the assessment also noted that the Political Reform Act exempts loans made to campaign committees of an elected officer or candidate for elective office per Government Code Section 87-460 subdivision E1. In sum, the assessment concluded that the allegations did not constitute inappropriate conduct under district policies or applicable law. As such, the OGC is closing the matter without further action.
Thank you. Chancellor, did you add? Colleagues, are there any questions regarding this?
So I understand that this is to just inform us, but so are you saying that like anytime someone wants to file a complaint because we got a campaign donation or loan, that you're going to do a notice to the entire board?
This complaint was handled under BP 6410 as a allegation of improper conduct. And because the respondent was a individual trustee, that's how the report came this way per the policy.
Right. I'm just saying that like on its face, it clearly does not. It does not, on its face, it's not if anything, it's a FPPC issue. And on its face, it really wouldn't be a district issue. So are you saying that every time someone files a complaint on a campaign contribution outside the scope of this district's business, that we're going to have to get a notice? Because I mean, that sounds like a really great way to waste everyone's time.
Well, I can't speak to the formation of this policy, the original formation of BP 6410, but I think this complaint appears to be been one of a first impression, or one that was ever, the first of its kind that was presented poorly under the policy.
Okay, I would hope that there's some sort of policy on frivolous complaints as well, so that we can just make sure that our meetings are efficient.
Madam Vice President, at any point, at any time, the board can amend, adopt, modify any board policy at any time. So if it's the wish of the board, we can certainly do that and bring recommendations.
Okay.
Because that's the way it's currently written, and it's been.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
And colleagues, does anyone have any announcements or any future proposed actions for staff? None? All right.
Madam Chair, can I just make an announcement about the women's event
Sure.
that Dr. Ornelas mentioned? I think there are flyers that are going around, so please take one on your way out. And we'd love to see you all at the event. It's a statewide event, and we've invited Assemblymember Luz Rivas, and it will include a tour of our biotech center and highlighting our baccalaureate degree program that is coming. Thank you.
I also have an announcement. I just wanted to remind everyone that the applications for this new term for student trustee and for your ASG members began on February 12th. So I urge you guys to try to recruit students so we can have full boards at every campus. And also, I wanted to mention that I did meet with every table, and I would love to discuss with my board members future plans regarding their resource. So thank you.
Let's do it. Anyone else?
Just really quick, the LGBT Affairs Committee is going to be held March 5th at 2, which is the day before the next board meeting. So I just want to make sure. And then I did want to make sure that we do get reports on, how many people are currently either going to or about to take the sexual harassment training. I know our numbers were pretty low. So when the time is appropriate, Madam President, if we could get a report on how many of our employees are participating, I know, thank you very much, Madam President. I know we're about to get our training. Thank you for setting that up. But I would like to see a report soon. Thank you very much.
No problem. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say, but I just was gonna say every table is gonna be at our, presenting at our April basic needs committee, so.
Thank
More
you.
food options is good for students.
That we're just coordinating. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. Now, for item AA, the First Amendment and the Brown Act guarantee a member of the public the right to criticize a public employee or public official in the performance of their duties. However, speakers are encouraged to focus their comments on issues relevant to the conduct of the public's business rather than on private or unrelated matters. Speakers are reminded that the Brown Act and the First Amendment do not protect defamatory statements made, which may subject a speaker to personal liability. Madam Board Secretary?
Yes, we have one.
Okay, so, Mr. Cuevas, are you on?
He's coming on right now. He's on.
Okay. Mr. Cuevas, you have, 3 minutes. Mr.
Unmute
Cuevas,
yourself.
we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Can I start over? I didn't know it was off. Okay. Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Trustee Sarah Hernandez, you never seem to amaze me with your ignorance, but let me go with my statement here. Board President Vela admonished Medina if she disclosed concerns about Rodriguez's illegal conduct related to contracts to other trustees, she would be fired. What do you think about that, Trustee Hernandez? Vela told Medina that if he did not want her complaining to him regarding Rodriguez, okay? Veras informed Ms. Medina he has been spreading false, disparaging rumors that Ms. Medina was having a romantic relationship with Buena, who is married. What do you think about that, Ms. Hernandez? Veras admitted to Medina he had told other trustees the untruthful romantic relationship. He counted the figures when he said, I've discussed this with Henderson, Lino, Hernandez, and Hoffman, the 4 women on the board. Shame on you, Steve Veras. You should step down. Anyhow, Ruben, on the procurement, you're absolutely right. I don't trust anything that David Vela does after raising $75,000 from the very vendors that are going to be applying for this contract. What else do I have to say today? Chancellor Rodriguez, you should step down in good faith if you really want to reform the district with sexual harassment, retaliation, or corruption. You're named in a lawsuit along with Steve Veras. Vela, you're named on it. You know, Trustee Hernandez is a lawyer. If she really was so sincere about doing the right thing, she would demand that these 3 men step down ASAP. And I also encourage the board women to start the censure process against Steve Veras for the false accusations towards Mr. Buenas, which is very shameful and very dangerous to try to ruin a man's life and his relationship with his family. Shame, shame, shame. That's not frivolous, Mrs. Hernandez. Have a great day, board, and happy Valentine's.
Thank you, Mr. Cuevas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So on to item AA2. Are there any members of the public signed up to address the board on closed session matters, Madam Board Secretary?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. So at this point, the board will recess to closed session in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, Government Code Sections 54950, and the Education Code to discuss the matters on the posted closed session agenda pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.5. May I have a motion and a second to recess?
So
Closed
moved.
session. Motion made by VP Eno. I will second Henderson. Madam Board Secretary, roll call, please.
Student trustee Cordova's advisory vote?
Yeah.
Trustee Boulna?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson?
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez?
Yes.
Trustee Hoffman?
Yes.
Trustee Eno?
Yes.
Trustee Vela?
Yes.
Trustee Veras? Not present.
Thank you.
Our library has it. I wasn't.
Meeting adjourned.